And we are going to be recording to the live custom stream here, guys. This is going to be an amazing podcast. We've just been talking for a half an hour, and it's like, let's go a little bit sooner because this is going to be amazing. So before we get a rocking and rolling, how about we introduce everybody on the panel? So let's start over here with Butch Fly. Oh, wait a minute. Are you Butch Fly PPG or you're PPGButch.com?
Butch Fly PPG.
So you're PPGButch.com.
PPGButch.com. Yeah.
All right. He is our director of operations over at the nonprofit Run to the Sky. You can find us at runtothesky.org, and we are helping disabled vets learn to fly and get adaptive flying machines. We also got Scuba Steve from paramotordude.com.
There you go.
Paramotordude.com, and you run a podcast every Friday, vaping and paramotors.
There you go.
That sounds awesome. Guys, if you haven't done so already, check out paramotordude.com. We also got our very own Linda Anderson. You can find her at paramomusa.com. She is our PR girl. She's the pom-pom girl. If you want to be on her show, not my show apparently, go to paramomusa.com, PM her, and say, hey, I want to be on your show because I don't know who that PPG grandpa guy is that talks all the time. We also got Will Fly from Will Fly PPG. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing good. Good to be here Monday night. My favorite show, my favorite paramotor show on Monday night.
Exactly. And you have an amazing show that is on your channel too. You do Just the Tip, you fly, you do amazing videos, and you can find it over at willflyppg.com. So go check that out. Our official sponsor is carepp.com. That's that guy from Canada that everybody knows is Money Smells Like Maple Syrup. He has a QR code there, so make sure you check that out at carepp.com. If you mention my name, PPG Grandpa, he'll give you 10% off. If you want to see his crazy shenanigans, check out careppg.com. As always, my name is Sean Simons, PPG Grandpa. It's interesting when I go to fly-ins, I say, hey, I'm Sean Simons. Really? I don't know you. How long you been flying? Oh, I'm PPG Grandpa. Oh, I know you. So that's really awesome. So I'm PPG Grandpa. Glad that you are here watching the show. This is episode 189. Tonight we got Matt and Jerry. This is going to be an incredible show. So Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself real quick, and then we'll jump over to Jerry.
Okay. Let's see. In aviation wise, I started in the 82nd Airborne. That's an infantryman in the Army and a paratrooper. And then moving forward about 20 years later, I started powered paragliding, and I've been flying now for about 5.5 years. And I've been instructing for 3. And it's wonderful. It's marvelous. I teach here in Kentucky. And we have some beautiful, amazing country here to see from the air.
That's excellent. And it's Sky Shark PPG, right?
Yes, sir. Yep. SkySharkPPG.com. Yep.
Absolutely. So you guys, if you haven't done so already, make sure you go over to SkySharkPPG.com. Check that out. Jerry, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we start getting to these amazing conversations that we were just talking about.
I'll keep it short. I'm Jerry Fly. I own a school here in Georgia. It's called PATRIOT Paramotor. I've been flying for about going on 9 years, I believe, and then instructing for right at 3 years. Fun fact: me and Matt got our instructor rating together. So, and up at Endless Foot Drag 3 years ago. So, but yeah, that's what I do here in Georgia. I train at a Hodges Field, and I'm also a bad apple flyer.
Bad apple. Okay, we got a bad apple here, but that's a good thing, right? Being a bad apple is a good thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Sure.
A little bit of notoriety.
There we go. So we were just talking on our pre-show about wings, trims, and we got into this conversation. It's like, man, we got to go a little bit earlier so we can continue this conversation on the air. Matt and Jerry, we're talking about trim settings. Let's go ahead and continue that kind of a little bit back so everybody can understand what we're talking about.
You want me to bring it up? Okay, well, basically, I just wanted to bring up best practices of trim settings and letting your trimmers out, pulling them back in. How does everybody do it? Do you stow your brakes? Do you stow one brake, pull one trimmer in and, and hit the buckle with your other hand? How do you do it? Like on A gliders, we were talking about, you can let one trimmer out all the way, one trimmer in. The A glider or a B glider most likely is not going to do anything but go into a slow turn. But as you advance and get on these higher performance gliders, like a Gen Carve or a Warp 2, something of that nature, how fast will they go into a flat down spiral? And what's the best practices of keeping it, of letting your trimmers in and out is what we were talking about.
That's a really good thing. So we have not only the panel that we can talk about or talk to, but right now, anybody that's in the super chat, if you fly, how do you let your trims out? One at a time? Do you stow your brakes? Do you keep your brakes in your hand? And we're going to go around the panel real quick and talk about this. Let's go ahead and go to Butch Fly real quick. Butch Fly, how do you adjust your trims when you are flying?
Well, I'm using the Charisma 2 A-wing, so I pull them in when I start off, and then a little above the treetops, I reach up and just pop both of them out to neutral.
So you stow your brakes.
Yes.
Okay. So that's a good thing, I think, personally, but you're on an A-wing, like we just said. A-wings are very, very forgiving. Let's go ahead and check out Scuba Steve. Scuba Steve, when you fly either trike or foot launch, how do you let your trims out?
Right now, I'm still only doing the foot launch. I haven't practiced enough on the trike yet to take off with it, but I have a BGD Magic ML wing. It's a Class A wing. So literally my trims can only go about 4 inches total. And it has high brake hang points and low. So if you're on a trike, you can switch back and forth. They're both magnetic and they clip on, but my brakes, even if I just push it and let it go, it'll whoop about that far, and that's as far as it's going, which really, it doesn't even change the wing that much, but I do stow my brakes to let the trims out.
Okay, so far 2 pilots that have A-wings stow their brakes to let out their trims or bring them in. Let's go ahead and go over to Will Fly from Will Fly PPG. You've been flying a couple of wings. You fly Atom 80 and also a Mostra 185. Is there any difference in setting trims for you?
As far as launching, is that what you're asking, or just as far as
Launching, flying, how would you adjust your trims when you're flying?
well, how I adjust there's the way I probably should do it and the way I really do it. But when I, let my trims out, I do them, symmetrically. When I pull my trims back in, generally speaking, I don't stow my brakes. I'll just use one hand, pull the one, and quickly pull the other. I probably should stow my brakes, but that's just not what I do. I mean, I'm so comfortable with the wing. I know its characteristics, and I know even the one at a time is not going to throw me into a spiral. But like Jerry said, different wings, different characteristics, right? So,
Well, what wing are you on now?
I'm on the Colorado.
Okay. The new one?
No,
Oh, yeah, the
no,
older one?
the
Okay.
original. Yeah. So, if it was a new wing, I would aim for symmetrical deployment both ways, in and out. But the wing I fly now, I don't do that.
All right, this is very interesting. I don't know if anybody said anything in the super chat. We'll find out here in just a minute after we talk with Jim from Canada and his maple syrup smelling money. If you can look in the super chat, see if anybody says anything. I'll get to you right after Jim. Jim, you've been flying for over a year now, right? Over 100 flights. So how do you stow your brakes? Do you just pull? I mean, how do you use your trims?
I fly a Mac Para Charger, the first version. It doesn't matter what you do, you're going to go pretty much straight. I can get myself into a down spiral, let go of the brakes, and it just straightens right out almost instantly. It's a crazy stable wing. So the difference, I flew a Viper the other day, and I'll tell you, holy crap. I tried to adjust the trims and I was having serious troubles because that thing just rocks and rolls. You stole your brakes or you not weight shifting just right. You're all over the place. I'd never experienced anything like that. And I never thought of holding my brakes at the same time as releasing. I probably would do that on that wing because I honestly could not figure out how to get both brakes released at the same time evenly on that wing without oscillating crazy like.
So you stowed your brakes and you couldn't figure out how to release your brakes or your trims?
Trims, sorry.
Okay, just double checking.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they also, the brakes, they pop way up high on you and then you can't reach them. So after you release the trims, so it was like, it take a lot of getting used to. So I'm really excited to hear about Matt and Jerry talking about basically training people on new wings or making sure that they're capable of it, or giving, just a little instruction, because you get on these things and you don't know what they're going to do really. You don't
This
know
is your
what
first
they're-
time on this wing? I mean, you've only flown one wing and this is your first time for a second wing?
No, it's not my first time flying a different wing, but it was my first time flying that wing.
Okay.
Jim, was it the Viper XC, the new ozone wing?
No, it was the Viper 5. So it was quite a bit different than the XC. I've flown the XC. The XC was much more stable. And I don't remember where the brakes were on that, because that was like back in February. But it was much easier to handle than.
Yeah, on both those. Well, I would say this: you fly a Charger, you went from a Cadillac to a Ferrari. There was no in between there on both those wings that you flew.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was the Viper 5 was a heck of a beast though. Like that was a big shock compared to the XC.
Yeah, that's a more advanced wing than the free ride in some aspects.
Very interesting. I've always stowed my brakes and then I would release them symmetrically. And then when I am ready to pull in my trims, I also put my brakes on the toggle or on the magnets and then bring in my trims symmetrically also. Now, some of them, and you guys will probably know this too, if you've flown many different wings, some trims you have to use both hands and pull down. Some of them you can use a fingertip and go voop, no problem. So obviously sometimes you have to stow the brakes and use both hands to pull down the darn trims. I would like to hear from you guys on the super chat. Will anybody out there in the super chat say anything?
And so James says, actually, nickname, not the real. So I'm working with James to see if he actually lets his trims in and out symmetrically. I guess he's got the warp 2, so it allows you to bring the trims in or let them out, I guess 3 centimeters at a time. I'm not familiar with that wing. But
What is he's saying the trim buckle stops it so it doesn't slip past that? Is that what he's saying?
I'm assuming. I don't know
Yeah,
anything.
so he's talking about the stitching on the increments is what he's talking about. They put a little stitching on that riser, or that, I guess you could say, yeah, that trim riser. Like, yeah, there's a little stitching that might catch that buckle and grip it so it doesn't slip beyond that, is probably what he's talking about.
That's
Yeah.
really interesting. I don't know if I want to rely on that stitching though, because sometimes,
Especially on that wing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, very interesting. So there's our thing. Matt, how do you adjust your trims? I'd like to hear from you.
All right. Well, trimmers, that's a big thing that Jerry brought up is first, are they smooth trimmers or do they have stitched lines? Now, with the gliders that my students use, I use a Gen Pegasus glider or the BGD Magic with them, and those do not have stitched lines. So on the Gen Pegasus, it has an alternating color pattern every centimeter or so, or every 2 centimeters. I've never measured the blocks to see how large the blocks are, but it alternates in a color pattern. And since it's smooth, the best way I have found for the students and for anybody using smooth trimmers, stow your brakes. You have to dump the trimmers out all the way together and then start drawing them in and try to draw them in symmetrically to the level that you're wanting. Then you can look at your little boxes and see which box you stopped at to make sure that you're symmetrical. Or unless you want to trim it asymmetrical to offset a weight shift or a torque steer. With other gliders, with like my Gen Falcon right now, it has stitched lines. So when you dump the trimmers, you have to really engage the buckle, the roller cam, to make sure it doesn't catch that threading that they were talking about, the threading that will stop every so many centimeters. But it damages it because of the amount of tension that stops on this little stitched line. So the best thing still to do is to push those in, dump them all the way out, and then draw them in symmetrically, one line at a time if you have to do left, right, left, right. About stowing the brakes. I stow my brakes most of the time unless I'm rocking and rolling. If I'm rocking and rolling and it's a bad area, then I use my non-throttle hand to pull my trimmers in, and I hold on to the brake on my throttle hand. And that way, if I start rocking and rolling really bad in oscillations, I just take it into a gentle turn and get out of it. Just take it to a gentle turn and finish getting your trimmers in with your strong hand, or that's your reserve hand, to pull in the trimmers that doesn't have anything to do. That's what I have found to be the best technique. You don't want to let go of both brakes when you're starting to get scared because you feel like a yo-yo.
That's true. I like what Matt said. There's 2 points I want to go over what Matt said. He said that if you're starting to do an oscillation, pulling one brake and doing a slight turn will kill that oscillation. I've noticed that too. That's a really good thing. Also too, if you have a little torque going on, whatever hand that you would normally pull a little bit to keep that wing going straight, all you have to do is pull that trimmer down a little bit. And I think that's what you're talking about, right, Matt? Just change your trim just a little bit so you don't have to worry about that torque.
Especially for cross country, flights and stuff where you don't want to hold a brake all day long or have to fight a weight shift all day long. It's easier just to offset your trimmers a little asymmetrically.
Excellent. Jerry, how about you, buddy?
It really boils down to the glider I'm on. If it's an A glider, I'll stow my brakes all day long. I don't, it doesn't, it's like second nature to me, but when I'm on like my drift air, if I fly something more advanced, I prefer to have my brakes in my hand when I let them out in case one buckle, like for example, when you were talking about sometimes you got to pull down on the strap and then hit the buckle tab to get that pressure off of it. And reason being that happens a lot, people will pull in their trimmers all the way up. I mean, basically suck it into that buckle as far as they can go. And that's what causes that to hang up where you're up there in the air and you press on that buckle and it won't release. So it's best to let out just a centimeter out where you can see just see the strip a little bit. That way it releases easy. But yeah, it just boils down to the wing that I'm on. Typically I do like Matt does, like I might stow one brake and keep my brake in my throttle hand. And then either I'll pull it in increments, like a little bit on this side, a little bit on this side, or, it just all depends on the wing. If I'm heavy loaded on a wing, odds are I'm going to pull it in symmetrically. I don't want to have to reach over here because a lot can happen on a heavy loaded high performance glider, so it just all depends on the wing. But at A/B glider, I'll stow my brakes. As I get more advanced, I'd rather have at least one brake in my hand.
Very, very good. And of course, too, just like you said, students, and very beginner pilots, they are going to either, probably stow their brakes and adjust their trims. But like you said, too, more advanced pilots have different techniques. And that's only because they've been in the air for many hundreds of hours and they've creeped up from the A's, B's, C's, and beyond. Very interesting how we talked about all these trim things. And hopefully you guys at home, you guys listening later on, or you guys listening right now live, if you guys are still live, let us know, how do you adjust your trims? Do you hold on to your brakes and adjust them, or do you stow your brakes and adjust them? I still would like to know as we get more and more people coming into the super chat. Man, this is going to be a great podcast. We're already 15 minutes into the podcast. It's almost 7:15. We got another 45 minutes, unless Jerry and Matt want to go a little bit longer than an hour. What do you guys want to do tonight?
See how it goes.
See how it goes. I like that.
Right?
Jerry, how long was our podcast last time? I can't remember
I
offhand.
think we were on about 2.5, 3 hours. almost.
Yeah, we always said we're going to
Hopefully-
do 1 hour. And next thing you know, Jerry and I are talking for like 2 or 3 hours. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Hopefully
You
Matt
know-
packed a launch.
Real quick, to a point to bring up too about gliders, something I didn't mention. So the gliders that I currently fly is I fly a Gen Fuse 44 meter, Gen Fuse 3 44 meter tandem foot launch glider. I fly a BGD Cyclone 38 meter tandem for my trike. I have a Kangook Nanook with a Cosmos 300. And then I fly a Falcon 22 meter, Falcon 222 meter for foot launch for my own flying. I also have a Luna 2 20 meter that I fly from time to time. And I also have a Gen Carve 24 meter that I fly as well. So, but I've had experience with many gliders, and I own, I think, 12 gliders right now. Some of them are for the school though, but that kind of happens. You know, you para accumulate in this hobby.
That's true.
Depends
It's
on
really
what you wanna
interesting.
fly that day.
What was really interesting too, I never flew an A-wing until I opened up the Paramotor Arkansas and got A-wings for everybody. That was the first time I actually flew an A-wing, which was a Mojo Power. So that was the first time I flew it. And let me tell you, trying to make turns and stuff like I'm used to, you know, like on the F3 or something, like the Epico F3, man, A-wings, they're like hanging from rafters.
They are, but
I have never flown an
Whirly.
A-wing, ever.
Really?
I enjoy them, to be honest with you.
Do you?
The right A-wing and you go heavy on it, I enjoy the heck out of it. Like the
Yeah.
ITV
Here, Will,
Baja
I got an
is
A-wing.
very dynamic.
I didn't say there's anything wrong with it. I just said, you know, I've never flown one, so.
with flying them as an advanced pilot, when I do acro on A-wings, that's where it gets hairy. It's actually harder to do acro on the A-wings, not only because they resist your oscillation, but the internal pressure of the glider is so much lower that you take large collapses on your outside wingtip when you're doing wingovers. So people need to be very, very cautious if they're flying Gen Carves or warps and all that stuff, and they're doing acro, and then they jump on an A glider and they blow it off and say, well, this is an A glider. It's no big deal. I can fly it. They're in for a collapse if they haven't been doing it in a while, and they'll
So
see
you have
because
to
they're
keep a lot more pressure on the lines.
Yeah,
basically?
you gotta be a
On the
lot more
outside,
deep in
yeah,
the brakes.
on the outside. And you have to build your oscillation energy much more gradual. You can't just throw it into wingovers after 2 or 3 oscillations like you can an advanced glider. But that internal pressure is a big deal because you're going to take a third of a wing collapse, maybe a quarter. I mean, it's a big collapse if you go into that wingover really soft for your first or second one on an A glider.
Okay, I'm really glad that we talked about wing collapses, because before you get into school, as you are looking at getting into a paramotor, the sport, what's the one thing that scares the crap out of you? Wingtip collapses or collapses of some sort, right? Butch Fly, that was your biggest thing, right? It's like, what is going to go on? I mean, am I going to have a wingtip collapse? Is it going to collapse? Am I going to fall out of the sky, right? I mean, that was your worry.
Yep. And then when I actually have one, by the time I looked up and seen it, it fixed itself.
Yeah, except when you're inverted over the glider, then you fall quite a few feet. Before it
I was
pops up.
inverted.
My very first flight, I had a minor wing collapse on the right. What happened was I turned back and went through my own wake, and just the very edge of it went down, and then it popped back out. And I was like, I thought that was going to be way worse, but it's not. You're just like, you feel it, but it's not like, I'm falling out of the sky. It's not like that.
Right.
It
Right.
scared
Those
me
bring-
for just a
wanna
second.
fly.
And I was like, oh.
Even on these advanced gliders nowadays, they're actually, I mean, there's no backflip 180s. the reflex technology has gotten so good that, I mean, it's even harder for them to take collapses, but even when they do, they recover pretty dang good, even though it's like a warp 2. Like, I mean, I've seen a warp 2, someone took a 50% collapse, kept flying straight, and he popped, pumped the brake a little bit and it popped right back open. Obviously it was on speed bar and he hit too much brake pressure. But I mean, they have gotten so safe. Like, I feel just as safe on my drift air than I probably do on an A-wing. And it's less likely to me. It's you pick a side of the fence. Either you're going to go A, B and stay on the classic side of things, or you go to a more right side of the field. You pick the side of the fence. You don't stay in that gray area where it's like semi-reflex. To me, that's a gray area where it's less likely to collapse, but if it does, it could be more dynamic. I'd rather be on something either I know is going to pop right back open, or it's going to take an act of God for it to take a collapse to begin with. You know what I mean? But even still, these gliders, like, I mean, just the technology has gone so far. It's not what it used to be when reflex first came out by any means.
Exactly. And one of the things too is like, I'm sure you guys do the same thing, that, get that fear out of the brain, right? So the first time that you guys go up and show your students what's going on, you take that big ear, you fly right by them 50%, 25% is down, 25% is down, you're flying on 50%, right? Let one side up, you're pulling 25% down, you're still flying safe, to reach up there, grab your outer A's and inner A's, pull it down and fly on half of a wing. You're flying perfectly fine on 50% of a wing, nothing happens. And your students are going like, well, that's incredible. So Jerry, Matt, do you guys do something like that to get that fear out of the students' brains?
Not on the collapsing of the glider, instead on oscillations, because collapsing probably won't even happen during their whole training. If they're taking a collapse, I'm putting them up in conditions that they shouldn't be flying in. I would think, but oscillations are very real, and that's a very real fear that they have, and that's a very real problem that we have as instructors, trying to keep them from oscillating, especially as they come into land. The closer they get, the more the oscillations grow a lot of times on their first few landings. And so when I take them up on a tandem, whether it's foot launch or trike, I throw us into oscillations pretty aggressively to let them to try to feel how to buffer that out, and also to see that we're okay, and then teaching them to pull a 1 or the Kinkelman position, soy sauce, if they must, pull 1, go to your minimum sync level or a little less than that, and that will buffer everything out right now. If you can't time the oscillation to figure out the single brake method, or go into a shallow turn to get out of the oscillation too. But, I do that with them because oscillations, I think, are what scare them the most. Versus.
Do you think trikes oscillate more than foot launch?
Trikes get crosswind oscillations. Foot launch does not. Foot launch, you get oscillations from moving in your seat and causing weight shift issue oscillations. You don't get that with the trike. But with the trike, you get crosswind against the wheels, and that causes oscillations that you got to fight on crosswinds. So
That's
oscillation.
interesting. Yeah.
And just to clarify, I'm up flying and I am pulling the brakes and I'm pulling the big ears and showing them all the students are down on the runway as I'm flying by, letting them see that I can collapse half of a wing and still fly straight without any worries. Because that to me seems to be the biggest fear, is the wingtip collapse or a wing collapse. As far as the oscillation, I don't think anybody comes to school and go, I'm afraid of oscillations. It's usually I'm afraid of the wingtips or the kite just falling out of the sky. So
when they're close to their 25th flight with me, then around 25th flight, I go up in the air with them on two-way radios. I'm flying and they're flying. And then we go up 1,500 feet or so, and I do big airs. After we go over it on the ground, how you do that. And I show them again and again which riser it is and things. So then I do it in front of them, and they see me descend. And they watch me go down with big airs, and then they see me release it and pop out. And then I fly around, and then I talk them through the procedure of doing a big ears, just so they can at least feel it and see how that works. but that's the only collapsing of the glider that I actually do with them in flight for any practice.
I think that's a good thing also too for students to be able to do before they leave school. I've been to SIV classes where somebody been flying for a long time and they just went to the SIV class just to do big ears because they were scared to death to do big ears. Another thing too, I've seen a lot of people that never touch trims.
Yep.
Or
Mhm.
or
A lot of
definitely
people are scared to
never-
death to touch the trims.
scared to death
Yep.
of the trims, and definitely don't touch that tip steering. It freaks everybody out. So I think that I wonder if you guys do this on your students. Do you, in their course of flying while they're at the school, do you have them let the trims in and out, use the tip steering to alleviate that fear?
I do trimmers probably about the I would say around the 18th, 20th flight. And I've had some students that want to do big ears. Like I had a student that I trained last year, and he was on his like 28th flight and he wanted to learn how to do big ears. So we went over on the ground, we went over it, in the air multiple times, and then, he did it. He's one of those fearless pilots that, is a non-event to him. But like definitely every time I send someone up, I go over basically where they're going to be flying, what happens if they lose a radio, so it keeps it fresh in their mind. It's very repetitive, but I go up with a motive. Okay, we're going to go up 500 feet this time. We're going to let the trimmers out this time. I'm going to be on the radio with you the whole time. We go up every time with something that we're going to work on. And then obviously towards the end of it, it turns into spot landings and, motor off spot landings to get their PPG too. So, but yeah, I do it about the 18th to 20th flight, depending on how comfortable they are with it. And to me, it's instructing. It's all about motivating and staying positive and talking them up. I mean, it's a mental thing. I mean, think about it. We're going up in the air on a bunch of strings and a canopy. So, I mean, people can easily get in their head and people can freeze up. I had a student that didn't tell me to after his like third or fourth flight that he was, what's the word, where you can tell them something or they can read something and they read it the total opposite.
Photograph. Dyslexic? What?
Dyslexic. He told me after about his fifth flight, he was dyslexic. I'm like, man, you should have told me that before I even sent you up in the air.
Tell him
We
to pull
would've
the other
totally
brake.
did this differently. Thank
Right.
God nothing happened. But yeah, I think that might be a question everybody should ask their student on, before they send them up in the air. Are you dyslexic?
Matt, you would know this because you say you got some BGD wings. What I like about the BGD, especially if you're a beginner, and the wing I got is a Class A, but on the risers, they actually have little pictures of ears on there. So you know exactly which lines to pull to do big ears, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, I'm using Pegasus to train mostly, but I have had Magic Motor, which is an excellent wing. And it's interesting. I like the risers on the BGD Magic better, but I like the glider better of the Pegasus. So
That makes sense.
I'm kind of torn in between. I wish I could put the risers of the BGD on Jen, have the perfect glider, but that's just the dilemma I'm stuck with. But yeah, BGD does a beautiful job marking the risers with big letter, and then a big ear where it doesn't say split A, it has just a big ear on it. And then there's a big B, the big C, and it's beautifully done, color coordinated. It's just really, really done well. And they're long risers, which is good to really get that arm extension out there. So they're not putting all the pressure on their cage, and cutting lines because of the cage and, cage being compressed and they can cut lines. So.
Very, very interesting. Just checking, Will, is there any question in the super chat that we need to address?
Yeah, Eric McFarland says if you're taking topics, doing an SIV in Northwest paragliding recently in August, feedback from the instructors there was that wing overs caused most pilots to end up in the lake. Thoughts? And yeah, I've heard wing overs some of the most dangerous stuff maneuvers you can do.
Yeah.
So
It's all about energy management.
Right.
Yeah.
The problem with wing overs is the first wing over. Your second one, third one, you have the energy built up from the inertia of the first one, but the first one is always that gamble to get up and over. And you know, that's when you're your lightest in your seat, and that's when you're almost free falling, you know, and so that's when it's the most dangerous. It's that first wing over. I didn't see the video, so I don't know what was going on there. I don't know, maybe they were catching some sink or something, a rotor off of a mountain. I don't know what the setting was, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. If they were ending up in the lake, something was going on with some sink is what I would guess. And when they were coming off of the wing over, they were getting more sink and they weren't able to pull enough brake to get some lift out of that situation. Plus, it sounds like they were doing them too low to the surface of the water. But
That's
Well, I
what I'm
think he
thinking.
means
Sounds
in
too low.
general. I think he means in general is what he was saying, that
I
wing
would mean
overs are the
throwing
problem.
reserve because of the wing overs, because of getting in trouble and throwing a reserve. And I could see that absolutely. Yeah, I've had my lines go
Oh.
slack first learning wing overs, and that's a pretty scary moment.
It is. It's really. And I think we've all been
Terrifying.
there with wing overs, because I mean, I don't know a whole lot of people that went and got training on how to do wing overs.
Nope,
But
they just go up there and do it.
You just go out there and you just kind of, it's a progression. But like Jerry said, it's about the energy management. You get to a point, man, you got to do something's got to give, right? You know?
Right.
So,
That outside brake pressure is very important too, especially on an A glider. You got to put a lot
Yeah.
outside brake pressure.
But you're gonna take a
And
huge
then
collapse.
if you're worried about that balloon effect, just when you go into that deep wing over and you're turning that way already, stay into that turn and ease off of it, you know, and just spiral out of it. That way, a lot of people will come out of it and they'll balloon up and then they'll frontal. So just if you're worried about it, do a wing over and then go into that turn, and then you don't have to, and just bleed off that energy, then slowly come up on that inward brake pressure, you know, to come out of that turn.
The other option is if you balloon up, the minute you get to the top of your balloon, you hammer your throttle, and that will keep you from diving and keep the glider from diving. So you hammer your throttle, possibly check your brakes if you need to, if the glider starts to dive. But if you hammer the throttle, you should go straight into level flight. I do wing overs though, typically without throttle. I do it purely with inertia. I try not to use the motor for wing overs because that's even more energy that you're building if you're using the motor. Yeah, you can get into trouble, that's for sure.
well, I mean, do you touch the throttle if you turn it into a barrel roll? I mean, you just kind of give yourself a little.
I do. I use the throttle. Typically, I enter my wing overs with a right wing over first because that's the traditional torque on the motor anyway. So the motor helps me get over on the first one. And then I don't use them after that because then you have plenty of energy. You have plenty of energy after your second wing over to go into a barrel roll if you want. But then it takes you into a nose down spiral and you got to be ready to get out of that too. So you're going to pull 3.5 G's is what my gaggle says. 3.6 is what I've pulled. 3.3, 3.6 G's.
Did you ever feel the lightheadedness, you can kind of feel like you're approaching something?
Yeah. You know, I did it first and then I learned, you know, the thing is you flex your abs. That's what you do. And you either don't breathe or you shallow breathe like you're back floating on water. And that keeps your thoracic portion of your body pressurized to keep the blood from leaking out of your head basically and going to your feet. You're kind of locking up all your muscles in your core and you're breathing kind of at the top of your lung capacity. And that way you will stay conscious through it, and you should, and be okay, but I don't recommend it to anybody. Really. Disclaimer there, don't do that.
I tell everybody, just enjoy the flight. You don't have to be upside down. It doesn't make you a great pilot to do wing overs and do acro. Enjoy the view, enjoy the simplicity of it. Don't, you know, humble yourself a little bit up there. You don't got to be upside down all the time. You know what I mean? You know, I tell everybody I don't want to be a statistic. You know, I don't want to be like, oh, he died doing what he loves. No, I'm going to stay alive doing what I love and do it safely. And I don't put myself at risk. If I'm going to do wing overs and get in one of those moods, I go up a couple thousand feet. Yeah. You know, so, you know, it's just, you see people take risks that's unnecessarily, you know, in the sport, and they take it for granted. They take aviation in general for granted. You know, it's
You're-
it's one of those things. I like precision flying. I like cross country. I like, you know, doing some foot drags or coming in, landing, spot landing where I wanted to land, you know, little things like that. Eventually doing like what Eric DeFore does and landing in some white rain boots. But you know what I mean? I don't know. I enjoy just seeing the view from up there. I mean, not many people get to enjoy that like we do. So
Yeah,
I
if
try
you're-
not
if
to
you're
take it
prone
for
to
granted, and I
blacking
try to
out-
preach to everybody not to take it for granted. So
If you're prone to blacking out, I wouldn't be wanting to do acro because I mean I blacked out from
Right.
just coughing. So I'm like, yeah, I don't think I want to do it.
What?
Well, apparently your body has a vagus nerve, and I didn't know anything about this, but if you cough really hard and your diaphragm decompresses, lights out.
Yeah.
And it happened to me like 3 times. So I mean I had COVID,
I think
but
that's called a vagal vagus or something like
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
vagal vega
Vagal-
something nerve.
good to know. I never even heard of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like an instant off switch. Trust me. Boom, you're out. You just don't even.
It happens to people, believe it or not, when they're going to the bathroom.
Wow. Yeah, I broke my nose. I mean, I literally was
Hold on.
coughing and I blacked out and fell face first into the
Dang, man.
floor. Blood was everywhere. It was
Yeah, but I
terrible.
bet you
Oh
weren't
my-
coughing anymore.
No, no,
It fixed your cough.
it fixed that right up.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I don't really think I don't have a desire to pull G's like that because who knows, I may black out, and that's the last thing you want to do is just be gliding down into some power line somewhere, blacked out.
Let me rephrase what I said too. So to me, there is a certain point that you do as a pilot want to push yourself in a safe way. And I compare it to this. I compare it to, you know, I own it, you know, if you had a Ferrari, right, Sean, and you only drive that Ferrari 15 miles per hour all the time, right? Do you really know how to drive that Ferrari if you went faster?
Nope.
Nope. So by that, you got to progress, you know, safely and slowly, but enough to know what that glider is capable of, but in a safe way, if that makes sense. So, I mean, by that, you do got to push in a little bit, you know, do some steeper turns, do some sharper turns, do a, you know, a baby spiral just to learn what that glider is actually capable of. Like a lot of people don't, you know, they think A gliders, for example, can't do a lot of things. There's A gliders that can barrel roll just as easy, obviously more brake pressure, you know, and it takes a lot more to throw it around like Matt was saying, but you know, people want to jump to other gliders so quickly. Learn that glider that you have, learn to fly the hell out of it before you switch to something else.
Yeah, I agree. You should stick with one. I tried to follow that. There's a little bit of rule of thought of having different arrows in your quiver for different situations. And I did that about a year, flying 3 different gliders as my quote unquote primary glider. And I found that what it did was it made me average at 3 gliders instead of exceptional at 1. And I would rather be exceptional at 1 and fly it at the ends of its comfort zone or the ends of the range that it's designed to fly in than to fly 3 or 4 gliders and not know where those boundaries are and how the glider is going to perform and what's going to happen. I changed my whole philosophy on that. And so I only fly 1 glider now, but also
the term is that don't fix it if it's not broken.
Right.
You know, you enjoy it. Why switch to something else?
and on the acro topic, it's better to not even open that box with people if you're comfortable not doing it, and I hope that everybody is comfortable not doing it really. But once you go down that path, it raises the bar of what it takes for you to get the excitement and the thrill of the flight. And so that kind of, it's a slippery slope, and it's a slippery, dangerous slope, the acro slope. And I would not encourage anybody to go down that slope or start it. But if they're going to, they need to go to an SIB course and get professional training and have pilots around them flying with them that are much more skilled than they are to also help them and provide them with advice and help nurture and foster that adventure side if they want to go down that path. But they need the proper training first, without a doubt.
Great.
100%. I agree. I knew a guy that started on A-wing, and for 4 or 5 years in his career, that's all he flew was the A-wing, and he was really, really good with an A-wing. You don't need to jump up. And what do you guys think? You know, when you get your first wing, how long should you stay in that wing before you even begin to think about getting another wing? What do you guys think?
I'd say an A glider, a year and a half, you know, at least 100 flights, 150 flights. Probably by 150 flights are starting to get bored. But I tell them, before you say you're bored with the wing and you want a new one, first off, exhaust all the trimmer options and try speed bar. It's pretty darn safe on an A-wing to do all those things. Do those things. See what if that glider will give you any more thrill, and see if you're ready truly to move up in a glider. And then don't do a steep jump. You know, go to a roadster or something of that nature. Advantage in the Gen series. Go to a low B. You know.
Yeah, I went
Okay.
backwards because I trained on a B wing, which was the Mac Charger 2. And
Okay.
I love that wing, man. You could just barely pull brakes and it would turn. Then I went to a Class A BGD, and I'm like, man, I have to pull the brakes so far just to turn. So I'm kind of hating that because it takes a lot more effort, but I do feel safer in it, I guess. But I mean, not that the Charger made me feel scared or anything. It's just, I like the way it turned a lot better and
Just-
flared.
So I started on the Charger as well, and I've been on the Charger for over 300 hours, and I love the thing. But when you fly the Charger trims in and no speed bar, it is classified as an A-wing. It's a paraglider wing at that stage. It is reflex, but it's designed to grab the air that's coming up so that you could paraglide with it. Once you go beyond releasing the trims, then it goes into the B section. And that's why it's classified B, is because it has that ability to go beyond just
Wow.
being A.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you, I love it. And I'm learning so much about it. Still, I learn about that wing and its capabilities. Long distance flights. I can fly for 8 hours on that wing if it's trimmed in. I just found out, did the math calculations the other day. It gets me 11 kilometers per liter if it's fully trimmed in. But the moment I take it off that, go intermediate, it goes down to 10. If I go to full trim out, then I'm down to 7. You know, there's just so much to learn. And then to understand what you guys were talking about with oscillations and rolls and wing overs, and the Mac Para, if you get into a steep wing over and you don't hold any brake, outside brake, it dives. And to learn and understand why it dives before you go into these other wings, I think that's extremely important. And it's nice to have people around that guide you when you do go into other wings.
I'd venture to say that most pilots, when they upgrade their wings, haven't even come close to maxing out the capabilities of the wing they own. You know, and I
I'm
say
guilty
this-
of it. I'm
Yeah,
totally
well,
guilty of it.
hey, me too. And it, you know, we're all like a bunch of little groups around the country, and you know, some guy gets a new wing and he's like, oh man, you got to try this wing. And before you know it, the whole group's got that wing. And the next year, someone else gets a new wing. And so we kind of feed on each other's energy on that. I mean,
Yeah.
one thing I've noticed in my own personal flying is I tend to want to really mix it up when I'm bored. And so if there's more time in between flights, I don't get bored so easily, if that makes any sense. I mean, you know, if you fly every single day, it's like you can only see the same stuff from the air so many times before, you know, I want to do something different, you know. So I kind of like Jerry's idea about, you know, there are healthier ways of mixing it up if you want to like practice your spot landings, or, you know, do things that could really get you out of a jam if you really needed it, you know.
Yeah, spot landings are probably one of the most important things. I would say the most important thing that you should learn and
Yeah.
practice. I mean, because we all know we've all had motor outs, and it sucks when you're, if you're not directly over something that you can land in. Thank God I have been every time because I'm pretty cautious as a pilot myself. But yeah, luckily I hadn't had to land in a cornfield or anything like that. And when you're up 1,500 feet, you look down like, yeah, I'm over a field, but you don't realize that grass or that corn's 6 foot high.
Yeah, or there's
You know what I
water
mean?
under that there grass.
Yeah.
Also know your climb rate, depending on what motor you're flying. If you're flying an Atom 80 as opposed to a 185, the 185 will climb out a lot quicker than an 80 will. So don't get yourself into a bind. Like say
Right.
you borrow your Atom 80, but you normally fly a 185. And go, I've got plenty of time. Don't do that. Plan ahead.
I think that's the point, that if you're going to go Atom 80, realize that you were buying a cross-country cruiser, not a low-flying motor. It is too dangerous with such a slow climb rate to fly low, to fly below 100 feet. You are asking to get into trouble. You're asking to get in a lot of trouble on the Atom 80. You need to have a powerful motor if you're going to even entertain the idea of foot drags and flying low and stuff. You've got to have a motor to get you out of trouble.
It
Speaking of
depends
Atom
on
80s,
your
I've had a-
weight. I think it depends on your weight and it depends on your wing. Number one, Butch Fly, he flies an Atom 80. He's a Bucko-3 wet. And he climbs he climbs at 50% like this.
He's outside the curve of all of us McDonald's eaters.
Okay. Here I am at 200. Here I am at 240 pounds on I love my Atom 80. I fly an Atom 80. I fly my F3 with it, and I can climb like a champ. I mean, I've flown everything else. I mean, I got a 185. I got a 220. I got my trike with the Rotex 503. I know climb. I know how to get out of stuff. But let me tell you, that Atom 80 with an F3 is so easy to do foot drags, and I can climb right up, no problem with it.
Sean's got a custom 200 centimeter prop on that Atom
Right.
80. But
Helicopter.
Got some nitrous button.
yeah. I would tell you this much. I have had a hard time selling Atom 80s. I've had the last 3 students I had probably weighed about $140 to $150. And I tried to talk them into an Atom 80 just to make their life a little bit easier. They want a Moster 185. They want the more power. So by that, I got to sit there and do a lot of motor work with them and throttling and all that stuff on the ground for them to get used to that throttle response, because I mean, it's crazy.
Drop the propeller to a 115 centimeter, and then you're going to lose get a 115 centimeter propeller for them on that.
You can get a
115.
115. I didn't even know they made those.
Yeah, they do. They do.
I typically do is I always put them on a 125 centimeter just to help a little bit.
Right.
But even still, that's not, because standard I always go with a 130. But
right. They have 115 at E-Props.
Is it a Woody? Jerry, do you put the 125 wood prop on, or is it?
No, I always go Helix. I like a Helix prop. They're beefier. They don't cut lines as easy as a E-prop if they do have a cage that flexes.
Yeah.
I prefer the Helix.
A wood prop will even slow it down a little bit more.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, can I share something on the screen?
Sure, go for it.
All right, let me get it here.
So if you're listening to this, Will Fly is sharing something in the screen on the screen here, and he's going to tell you what it is.
Yeah, so this is when probably, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 flights after I transitioned from the Atom 80 to the Moster. But can you all see that?
I see where it says visible lines. I saw the lines.
Do you see the line? That's a power line.
Yeah.
And I'm flying to it. And I don't see it yet.
Is this your view?
This is my view.
Oh, baby Jesus.
Is that okay? First of all,
this is my view. This is first person.
Is this a helmet cam or chest cam?
No, and it's not a what do you
Where was it?
I can't remember. I think it was helmet. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
It was a drone. He was not involved. No.
Yeah.
Or was it a chase cam and your climb rate was so great that you're completely.
You know, that's an interesting point. If I had the chase cam on there, I really don't think I would have made this. But anyway, so it's coming up, and there's my feet. You see my feet at the bottom?
Wow.
Yeah,
Are you raising your feet up?
yeah, yeah.
You can make it over.
You can
Look
see
at
the line
you.
there to the bottom left.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Will
Uh,
fly with the red shoes.
Dude, if I did not have if I had the Adam 80 in that situation, I'd have been toast. There's no question about it.
Probably
Hold
had
on,
your
we'll
brakes
go
to your
back.
chest.
I want to
too,
see how this ended.
Huh?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, put it back. Let's watch this
Yeah,
thing.
you cleared it.
no,
Obviously,
no,
you're still here.
I can redo it. Is it still there?
Yes.
Yeah,
Hit play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
take out all the cuss words and all that stuff.
yeah, there was a lot of woo-hoos. Okay, so here it comes again. That was it in real time, and there's the line.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah, man. Oh, is what I was
Wow.
saying. Oh.
that could have been
So-
a bad day.
What is the real takeaway, Will, for new pilots?
The real takeaway from this, now I had already cleared this field. Okay, I had already cleared it from flying above it. Let me stop screen sharing. There we go. I had already cleared the field from below. I'd walked it. I just did not, and from above. I just did not see that freaking power line. So first of all, I can say I made the mistake of looking for power lines instead of for power poles. And had I looked for power poles, I would have seen where the line terminated. It was like at the very last section. And I just didn't see it. I mean, it's even when you take the time to clear an area or a field, man, you still got to be on the lookout. I mean, people make mistakes just like I did there. That would have been a doozy. But
Or
another
some
thing,
farmer puts up a cable for whatever reason that you don't know about the weekend
Right.
prior.
yeah, that's another thing. When you're carving even a field that you're used to carving or whatever, and you fly around it all the time, you know, power poles got to go up sometimes, right? And
Mhm.
so, but the other thing is, depending on where you are at or above the horizon, those power lines can hide. I mean, big time. They become invisible. Even looking at that video, there's a part where I stopped the camera and it's like, dude, you cannot see that power line, even trying to see it. So
I mean, at least you tried to scout it. I mean, that's a good thing, you know, scouting a place out before you fly it. I just can't believe you missed that. Wow.
yeah, that was a doozy, right? I mean, it would have been pilot error no matter what, but
Hindsight being 2020, you probably should have made a hard right turn or hard right bank.
I just did what, you know, it was, I
Right.
had like a
And
0.3
that throttle.
seconds to react, you know, so it's like, but the throttle, that came first. Wham, the feet, of course, you know, that, you know.
Brakes, a lot of brake.
That fee helped them. That fee is what got them over it.
Yeah.
Those feet were
Oh,
behind
those were
his
brand new
ears. He didn't
shoes
pay
too. That would have been horrible.
Well, you look like they had a lot
Worry
of
about
rubber.
the
Maybe it would have
shoes.
grounded you out from the electrocution of it, you know?
Yeah, man, baby.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh my God. Yeah, Will, we do want to nickname you Sparky anytime soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, right.
Oh my
I had a
God.
situation flying through a gap between trees, and I was coming up to the gap, and I looked at the gap real hard, and I looked and I said, wait a minute, there's a hawk. How is it levitating? And I was like, oh, power line. The only reason I saw the hawk was on there.
Oh my gosh. That's scary. That is scary.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a thumbnail while we're, now
Awake
off
and
here?
happy
Awake.
and sunshiny.
Yeah. There we go.
All right, you ready? I'll count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Got it.
My heart didn't work. Come on, heart. There it goes.
I know the heart. See what I started? That's right.
And my camera won't do that, no matter how much I've already updated everything.
I know it works because when you do a thumb, it'll do a thumb. There it goes. See, it did a thumb thing.
Yeah, we
Yeah, I can
tried
do
this
that.
before. Mine doesn't work.
Usually,
I don't like my thumbs on the camera. They look all like
One of
ghosts.
mine works.
or not.
I've tried it every which way. I've even practiced it.
I know it's hard. Yeah. It's hard to do the heart thing. So I just do it how I do it. You know,
Yeah, so all joking aside, really, 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 really pay attention to the power lines because if you fly long enough, you will have something occur in your flying that will involve power lines, whether it's a close call or whether, gosh, look, that field's got power, you'll just be careful.
How is that hawk levitating? I love
Yeah, how
that.
is the hawk levitating? Perfect example.
Never heard that one before. We have a lot of questions in the super chat. Scuba Steve, can you start us off with the questions that you posted in the
Oh.
chat here?
Sure. Let's go back and look at this here. Well, Shane's had a few questions, so which one?
No, don't cherry pick.
How many hours does your students get before they break their first prop?
Some of them break them on the first flight. You know how
Right.
that leap of faith goes.
Right.
We
Uh,
all
for some-
do it. That leap of faith, you think you're off the ground and come
Yeah.
down and sink out and pow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, for
why I
some
try to
reason-
talk every student into buying an extra prop before training so they have it. It's just like going to a fly-in. I don't never go to a fly-in without at least 2 props. So, because it doesn't matter if you've been doing this 1 year to 20 years, you're still going to mess up.
Mhm.
You're still going to trip. You're still going to fall. You're still going to stumble. You're going to break props. So, yeah, props in cage pieces are a must.
Yeah. Some of it's bad luck too. It depends on the field. If the field, which unfortunately most of the fields we fly are not like Hodges. So,
Yeah.
there's quads and there's all kinds of things that they accidentally trip and kick because they can't see it in the grass, and away they go. There goes the propeller.
295 for me. I got to break my first prop.
And
Yeah, V prop.
Most used to never break one, but then I've had some students that chew them up like I don't know, like they're corn chips.
Deep pockets, some of them have.
Yeah, I
Shane
guess.
wants to know, is Jerry going to fly for Gage next year?
I plan on it. That's a great fly-in. If y'all haven't been to it, I highly suggest y'all go into it. Plenty of fun things to do, like foot dragging the gator pond. You must do that if you go to the fly-in. That's a requirement. It's gator infested around all the ponds there, so you're going to have to foot drag it. So if you
That
don't foot
makes-
drag it, you get kicked out of the fly-in. So
I'm not going then. I'm not.
it's a rite of passage, but yeah, it's a beautiful place that Shane got. And yeah, I look forward to it getting bigger and bigger. It's a good fly-in to go to, and it's in a good area, and there's multiple locations you can launch from. If you don't want to be around, the main crowd, you can go up the road a little bit and launch. If you got one wheels, and which we all do, there's plenty of places to ride your one wheel and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool.
I went to a fly-in for the first time recently, Dave Purden's fly-in in Portsmouth, Ohio, and I need to give a shout out to those guys. They put on a great fly-in. It was the 24th annual one this year, and it's nice because Portsmouth, Ohio is right in the floodplain for the Ohio River. So you're able to river hop back and forth from Kentucky to Ohio, back and forth. And it was a really, really nice fly-in. It's a really good time. That's one for people to kind of look out and put it on the
Yeah,
radar.
that's definitely on the bucket list for next year. I wanted to go this year, but I had unforeseen circumstances come up. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think they put a cap on it.
Fly-in, no question about it.
So what?
That is an awesome freaking fly-in. No question
Yeah.
about it. Bird and fly-in.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to go this year, but we were kind of sick and we didn't want to go over there to Pern's and go ha, 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 to everybody. So we stayed. Say Will Fly, any other questions in the super chat that we need to discuss?
Yeah, there was one that was, this was earlier, Paramotor IRL said, with my glider, I figured shortening the brakes a bit from stock would be like changing a wing without having to spend 3,000, which is closer to 4,000 now probably. But man, that would just, I mean, my arms would get real tired because if you shorten the brakes too much anyways, I mean, you're going to be up here with your arms instead of, relaxed. The only time I've had to shorten my brakes is with the charger, the Mac Para charger. I had to take like 3 inches off the brakes from the factory, but that was to give me the flare that I needed at the, where my arms, I could actually get all the flare. I wouldn't, my vote would be no. I wouldn't use that to try to turn my wing into a sportier wing.
Matt, Jerry, what do you guys think about students or pilots shortening the wings or the brake toggles?
I think that if they're new to this, they need to do it with an instructor or a very seasoned pilot. Number one. Number two is they have to make sure it does not deflect the trailing edge with the trimmers all the way out. So that's a problem. If they shorten them too much, they have to fly trim in all the time. Because if they let out the trimmers, it causes wing deflection on the trailing edge and they slow down. So you're letting the trimmers out to speed up. Well, now you slow down because you're basically applying brake with the trimmers out. So something I saw with One Up Adventure that they did that was pretty interesting. I've never seen anybody do it. Instead of tying the brake down lower, all these brakes have a lot of slack at the end. They wrapped the slack above the toggle connection point tightly, and that lowered the brake using the slack of the brake line. So they didn't have to retie the knot. And I thought that was an interesting way to kind of pull it down from the pulley. So the pulley would stop at the excess line tie point from the brakes.
Oh, I see. They took the slack that was coming off of the brake and just tied a knot higher on the brake line so that it would. I got it.
Real tight all the way up because BGD has a lot of slack.
Yeah,
but
it does.
tie a knot up there. Absolutely, you could tie a knot that, as long as it doesn't slip coming down. But that would have the brakes kind of lower. I mean, that's a cheaper way or easier way of doing it without messing up the actual tie point of the brake.
Hey, Matt, let me ask you a question. Let's say that somebody, changed the brakes. Let's say that they took 3 inches off, right? So they could go trims out, go faster, or have more brake authority. Let's say that they sold that to somebody and they took it up and pushed speed bar with trims out. What would happen?
Ooh, trim. If it's an A glider or a B glider, probably nothing. B's, again, B is a sticky, that's a sticky grouping. B is, it really is kind of the pitfall. You have super safe gliders and you have some that probably shouldn't be B's. A glider, I think they'd be fine. Anything more than that, I think that, again, they need to have an instructor or a very seasoned pilot take it up and look at it, and let the trimmers out slowly and see what's going on with that, with the brakes and everything. They need to also let that person know who is buying the wing that they've adjusted the brakes. Hopefully they take that seriously and fly with trimmed in initially and see how it responds and slowly let the trimmers out, watching the trailing edge of the wing to see what's going on.
Jerry, what do you think? That's kind of dangerous because we know that if you have tip steering and you go past neutral, you're not supposed to touch the brakes. If you push speed bar and your trims or your brake toggles have been modified without your knowledge because you bought a used wing, you could potentially collapse that wing.
I would say multiple things there. So first thing, I would kite the glider. That's the first thing. Before I got on speed bar, I would definitely fly the glider and let the trims out and see what brake, see if there's any slack left in the brake, see if it's still bowed in that line just a little bit to even show that you could use speed bar. But like, that's just something everybody should check because I mean, there's many factors there. The person could have been on a mid hang point and the person you're selling it to could be on a high hang point paramotor. There's multiple factors there, but like, that's the thing about used gliders. Like, if there's definitely a best practice that needs to be in place where people shouldn't buy a used glider unless they get it directly from an instructor that they, trust, but like also have it sit into like Andrew Fuller or Eric DeFore's wife or something like that, have it inspected, make sure it's still a workable glider, make sure, everything's good on it, but also put a note in there to check the brakes and make sure that if they've been shortened, put them back to standard or, just make sure they are correct. So there's many factors of, best practices, but obviously a lot of people don't, do that because they get into the sport and they go, they want to go buy used gear. And that's one of them things I would never compromise on is buying a used glider personally, because that's your lifeline up there. That's what you start out with, before you even get to a reserve. I'd rather be on something I know that was new and it came factory set, if that makes sense. But that's just, a personal opinion. Obviously, we all sell used gliders and stuff like that, but like, yeah, most people aren't going to tell you if they shorten the brakes or not.
Exactly. And that's the scary part when it comes to people that are self-trained that buy their gear off of eBay and then go try to self-train. They just don't know what they don't know. We
Facts.
are talking about how we're doing it, how we would look at things. We would kite the wing. Somebody that doesn't know what they don't know goes and buys something off eBay. They try their first flight and it could be catastrophic. So it's not that you can't go and self-train. You might be getting gear that is dangerous.
Yeah, a lot of them 9 times out of 10 don't buy the right gear to start out with. They always go either on a big wing or a smaller wing. They don't know what they don't know, like you said. Like I had a gentleman that called and ordered a package deal for me today that I'm going to train. He called me. He's like, "Hey man, I'm going to order my own gear, get it used, and I'm just going to come to you for training if that's okay." And he sent me the links, and I was like, "Man, how much do you weigh?" He's like, "I weigh 145." I was like, "Why are you going on a 28-meter glider? That glider is too big for you." Like I was like, "See, you almost made a couple $1,000 mistake right there." Short, but to finish the story, he ended up just finally ordering his gear through me. But like, he almost ended up on the wrong wing, and then I'm like, there's many variables there. How many hours does that wing have on it? I don't know. I just thought it was a good deal. I'm like, man, there's many questions you got to ask there. Did you ask for them to send it in for inspection and show the certificate that it got inspected by, someone reputable? No, I didn't know you should do that. I'm like, man, I was like, see, you almost made a huge mistake. And a lot of people get in this sport and they make these mistakes and then end up they getting out of it because they bought the wrong gear to begin with. And then they can't get off the ground. It's like buying a fresh breeze. I started out on a fresh breeze. That was probably the hardest thing I ever did. I'd love to fly one now because I got my launch technique and all that stuff down. But 90 pounds on your back is not easy to launch with. And I was at the very top of the weight range on the glider that I chose. That was another factor. So, and I ended up selling it and then, ended up forking out another $5,000 on top of what I just spent just to get the equipment that actually fit me. So yeah, I definitely think people should, if they're going to buy a used glider, it needs to go get a certified inspection right away and have all that checked. I mean, that's just standard, but like a lot of people don't know what they don't know.
Something I wanted to say about the trimmer real quick. Because we're talking about trim neutral, brakes, stuff like that. I want to back that up and say every glider is different. And I recommend everybody read their manual and see, can they pull the brakes with the trims out or the trims in or trims neutral? You need to read the manual several times over before you actually attempt messing with the trimmers. I think that, because every glider is different, they really are. It's not a one system fits all, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. The free ride, I think if you go anything beyond halfway trim, you're not supposed to use your brakes at all. You're only supposed to use tip steering. So you don't have to actually engage the speed bar before you're not supposed to use your brakes.
Yeah. And the brakes won't cause a collapse, but they change the pressure inside the glider and it ruins the reflex profile that is changing the pressure towards the leading edge to keep it from collapsing. So you're messing up that pressure that's pushing to the front of the glider by pulling on those brakes, and it makes it more collapse prone. You know, again, because the angle of attack is so low, and they're flying into the slipstream so straight that, you know, they're right on the brink of collapse when you're doing that, you know, especially with speed bar, pushing that nose down even further, you know, and then we all know what happens with that, you know. Speed bar trimmed out, you know, have some altitude if you're going to do that, or be on a very safe wing.
Yeah. And let's go back to pulling the big ears too. Just like Matt said, you got to read your manual. There's some gliders that do not recommend big ears.
A
And
lot
if
of
you-
reflex gliders don't, but like some of them are plenty fine with them. From what I've seen, most of the, well, I wouldn't say most, but 50% or more maybe that has a split A, you know, it seems to be fine. Like I can pull big ears on my drift air. It's a full reflex glider and it'll pop right back out. I don't even have to pump the brake for it to come out, you know, but it depends on the glider, you know, read your manual like you're saying.
Exactly.
Yep.
Question in the chat for Jerry. Never trust the skinny chef. Shane wants to know if you'll teach him. He's been flying for 4 years. He still hasn't done a barrel roll. He wants to know if you'll teach him how to do it.
Nope, he can go to Andrew. He's a lot closer. I honestly, I couldn't even tell you if I've done maybe half barrel rolls. I wouldn't even say a full barrel. I've done really big wing overs, but Shane knows I don't do acro like that.
You gotta listen to
that's
Godsmack,
why he's
man.
questioning
You'll
me.
be doing
No.
barrel rolls in no time. Just depends on what music you got.
Yeah, but no, I honestly, it's just I'm not that type of pilot. It doesn't you know, make me want to. There's nothing about it that makes me want to do it. But if anybody wants to learn, I'll teach up to big ears. Anything past that, I will send them to Andrew Fuller. To me, you need to be in the safest setting as possible, learning wing overs and beyond. And that's over water up 4,000 or 5,000 feet.
That's really
But
good.
do a lot
good
of us
advice,
do that?
because
No, we don't.
you know what? You know, we were talking earlier how, you know, we saw you just kind of do your first wing overs on yourself by yourself and all you doing all this stuff, but you don't know if you're doing it right. So
Agreed.
you don't know what you don't know. So it really does make sense to go get some training. If your goal is to be inverted, okay, well, I mean, why not just have an instructor teach you how to do it right? And then that way, at least you know how that you've done it right. And most importantly, when things go wrong, what to do.
Yeah, that's why we have SIV clinics. I mean, it's best to go to someone like Andrew to learn that properly and, you know, safely. You're going to put yourself in the safest setting as possible. Do we do that? No, I would venture to say well over 80 to 90% of all pilots, they learn to do wing overs on their own, you know, within time of flying. I mean, you know, people make it like it's a non-event, but you know, it can be if you mess up. But like, there is a really good video on YouTube. Like I researched a lot of it. I was one of those people who learned to do a wing over on my own. You know, I didn't go to Andrew. Yeah, I'm real good friends with Andrew, but I didn't go to Andrew. But like, there's a Chris Senacroce has a video. I think it's called Wing Over Pitfalls on YouTube. That's really good. It's probably about 20 to 30 minutes long. And he goes into deep detail about it, but it's like one of them things. It's like self-training. Do I highly suggest you doing that? No, I suggest you going to get on the radio with someone that can watch you from the ground in a safe setting. But yeah.
Yeah. You know, another thing about wing overs, what I find interesting is when I meet pilots that are learning how to do them or just getting into doing them or asking about them, none of them have done asymmetrical spirals first. You say, well, have you been practicing asymmetrical spirals? And they look at you with a blank stare because they don't know what it is. It's like, well, that's your precursor to wing overs. It's just a small wing over in the same direction again and again and again and again and again and again to learn that swing oscillation energy management for roll. And but they don't know that. You know, they want to immediately start going upside down and flipping back and forth and doing that. And by the way, another thing to think about with acro when you start that, I've had the fire department called numerous times on my behalf by the casual passerby watching that occur. They think I'm out of control, you know, because they don't know why is he upside down and going from left to right to left to right, you know, and so yeah, I've had a couple false alarms over the past few years, but the fire department's been good. Unfortunately, it's all been false alarms, but there's
Yeah.
that.
That happens on the beach a lot. A lot of people call like, man, what is he doing? He's about to crash. Something's not right.
Yeah, and then they don't call back when they see that you're fine and you land. They don't call back 911, say, never mind, the guy's fine.
Yeah,
very
so
interesting.
you're right. It's called Paragliding Pitfall, and I guess he's got it's a 4-part series. So I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, it's actually really good. You know, he's one of the, you know, best around. I think he's retired. He's not doing SIV no more, but still, you know, he's well renowned. So.
There's another video. There's a video out too called Performance Flying, and it's by Jockey Sanderson, I believe. And it's paragliding, but it's performance flying. But that is an excellent video too. Jockey Sanderson, I think he's one of the Ozone test pilots. And he walks you through asymmetricals to then wing overs to sats, and then they show people doing helis and all that stuff, but and even infinite tumbles. But yeah, that I'm not going down that road.
Is it air safety? No, I mean, is it Westland Paragliding Performance in Flight?
It's called Performance Flying. But Jockey Sanderson is his name. Jockey is his first name.
Okay.
He's an English paramotor pilot, or not paramotor, but paragliding pilot anyway. Yeah, I don't have it around me to look it up. But it was an excellent video. I think Trike Buggy has it available. Chad Bastian, I think he has it on his website, and I've seen it on several other websites.
Team Fly Halo has a good series too. It's not free, but it's all about energy management. I actually
Will
have
wasn't
that.
here when I talked about the mistake I made earlier. Maybe Will's got some input on it, even though he does not fly a trike. What I was telling Sean and everybody else is I wasn't planning on flying the trike, but I was just going to go out and do some runs on it because it's been a while since I did it. Got my left brake, reached around, grabbed the A, no problem. The right side, I think what I did is I grabbed my brake, then I reached around to grab my throttle to start the motor, but when I went to grab the A, I grabbed it from the front. So what happened was when the wing came up, I went to let go of the A's, and the A snapped back and hit my throttle and made me go full throttle. That was scary. I mean, luckily there's a kill switch, but yeah, I realized my mistake real quick. But yeah, if you normally when you're doing foot launch, you don't, you're just reaching down, grabbing your brakes and going around, but it's different when you're on a trike because you got to think about grabbing from behind and going around.
The A assists are wonderful.
I wish I had A assist, but no, this is an add-on trike.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the problem. You got to have the roll cage. Cage. Right. Yeah.
So really, here's a question. We've been talking about SIV clinics. At 6 months, I took my first SIV clinic. And even though I had 6 months worth of flying under my belt, after taking a couple of days of SIV clinic, I feel like I doubled that. I felt like I was at least a year pilot. For you guys out there that have taken SIV clinics, do you feel like you've just accelerated your time under the wing, understand a lot better and a lot safer? Anybody that's taken the SIV clinic? Nobody's taken the SIV clinic?
I've not taken one.
Not me, not yet.
Sean, here's
I've
the
taken
thing
SIV
about
clinic.
SIV clinics too. So
I've taken
most people
numerous
that's gonna
SIV
do-
clinics.
Most people are going to do acro. They obviously have a less fear factor, right? A lot of people that, these average pilots, like, they just want to cross country, just want to go get a quick 30-minute flight in, sightsee. they don't feel the need, but also it's a fear thing. I mean, you got to have some big, cojones to get up there and pull a full stall, and pull these collapses. You're taking a perfectly good wing and deflating it purposely. So a lot of people, don't have, they have too much fear to even do that. Am I going to eventually take one? Oh yeah, I'm definitely, Andrew's been trying to get me down there for years, and I wouldn't say it's technically fear. Some of it is. I think the biggest fear for me is probably not the full stall. It's probably the full frontal, but it's, it's a lot of pilots nowadays, especially with, these safe wings and how they their flying style is what bases that, but I highly suggest everybody doing it, but it's, you got to get over a lot of fear to be able to do some of the things that you're going to learn in SIV. I mean, doing even an asymmetric spiral. Matt, how many G's do you feel in an asymmetric spiral typically?
Asymmetrical spiral, you're pulling two,
So you're definitely
one
going to feel it in your stomach.
energy.
Yeah, so you're going to feel it
Yeah.
a little bit. So I mean,
Oh yeah,
even
yeah.
doing
Yeah, you're
that,
gonna hear the creaking.
it's a fear in itself. But I suggest
Absolutely.
everybody
Especially when you
doing it.
Right. When you hear your seat board creak and you feel the tension on the lines of the glider, you feel everything tension, all the tension in the harness. You feel all that weight and all that, all that energy, basically, all those G-forces coming from the inertia. And it's intimidating, because you're really stressing your gear, it takes a while to feel comfortable there.
Yeah, and the more acro that you do, the more you're going to stretch out the wing, the more you're going to destroy that wing that you just bought too. So a brand new wing that you do acro in 1 year, you may have just completely destroyed that wing, and it's not even worth relining or anything else because you just destroyed it.
Yep. Yeah,
and a lot of guys on their acro gliders too, they'll fly heavy, which puts even more of a strain on it.
Yeah, you want your glider to last a long time, go up, enjoy, sightsee, enjoy everything. Most people that are on the ground are going to look up and go, that is so cool. And you don't have to do nothing but fly straight and wave. That is it. And they're like, oh, I want to do that. You start doing flips and twists and like, oh, that looks really scary. I don't know why that does that. Does that do that all by itself? I won't want to fly that. So you got to think about that too, guys. People that are looking up for the first time, is that the way it normally flies up around in circles? I can't do that. But if you just fly overhead, you wave, I think that looks like a fun sport.
Yep.
You make an excellent point. We pilots think wing overs look cool, and it looks really nice when a pilot is really skilled and surgically doing wing overs and things like that, and just really having mastery of that glider. We are impressed by it, but people on the ground are not. They're scared by it, and they don't think it's cool at all. That is a huge topic, definitely.
Hey, while you were talking about A-assist earlier, Tony says, so is A-assist just like training wheels? Is that basically what it is?
No, A-assists are basically thumbs.
Yeah.
That's what they're just straps that connect to sister clips on the front of the A riser on a glider that's designed for trikes. And so it connects to it and it just pulls the glider up as if your hands did. So the only thing in your hand on those trikes with A-assist, it's nice. It's just brakes. You have brake toggles and throttle, and that's it.
Yep.
Well, it depends on the trike you have too. If you have a trike that your carabiner is attached.
Yeah, you have to have a roll cage because that's where the A is attaching, is to the roll cage.
Yeah.
Right. And if you have a wing, that's 30 and 40 some meters big, you can't pull that thing forward. And if you did, it'd probably rip your shoulders back. So ASS actually helps when you have huge wings, tandem wings, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen
Yes.
trikes where they just have little metal bars, two little metal bars sticking out on the top, and you loop it around that and it pops off when it's
I've snapped one of those off. If you have any slack in the lines, I jerked one of them clean off. The best ones I have found actually are from Fly Products. Makes it just a strap, and they make a strap and it's like 50, 60 bucks. And that's all it is for the straps. And yeah, it just attaches to that roll cage and it works well. You just have to have a collar or something for it to hold on to, so it doesn't slide back towards your riser.
I'm trying to,
onto your cage. I've never seen that. That's weird.
what's that, Scuba?
I've never seen a strap that you can hook to your cage for a assist. I don't.
Yeah, it's nice too, because the Fly product one, well, let me go back to the bars. I had the bar system on mine, and you had to set it up and tie the line to be exact and just to be putting tension on the A's and all that stuff. And there was a lot of preparation. Once it was dialed in, then you were good. You didn't have to do it again. Where with the Fly products, it has a roller cam, a roller cam on it, just like our trimmers do. So you can lengthen it. You can lengthen the straps or shorten them. And that's important for like my tandem trike, because I'm moving the hang point for the weight of the passenger, or if I'm flying it solo, I'm moving it 3 different positions. And so this allows me to, on the fly almost, to change the tension on those A's based on where I'm attaching the risers of the glider to, based on the weight for my flight.
I think what Scuba is confused about is when you say cage, when you talk about a dedicated trike, the whole thing is a cage. He's talking about cage as just the prop cover, I think, right, Scuba Steve?
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought it was talking. I was like, I've never seen anybody hook a assist to their to their hoop. You know, I'm like, how's that gonna work?
Line assist, yes, line assist on the sides, but not a assist.
Yeah, I got line assist, but okay, now it makes sense. Okay, I was totally thinking something else, and
Or line, I guess they're called line guides on the sides.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I love how, you know, the more we talk about these things, the more we, you know, talk about different types of flying gear and stuff like that. You know, Butch Fly and Scuba Steve, they fly foot launch and then they bolt on a light trike to their foot launch, right? And I think what Matt's talking about is a dedicated trike, so the entire cage goes from that front wheel all the way to the back. So when we're talking about terminology, you kind of have to talk about the terminology to the pilots that fly those particular type of flying machines. So hopefully somebody out there learned something new. Excellent. So Jarrett, tell us a little bit about your school and what it's all about. And I think that you're trying to get some more people in, right?
Yeah, so basically me and Matt are teaming up together. He's coming down December 2nd through the 10th. We are going to do a big training class. He's going to have a couple students that's finishing up coming over, but we're trying to at least fill 4 more slots for the actual new class. It's going to be out of Hodgesville, where I train at, where we host the Bad Apples Fly-In every year. My school is pretty much, it's based off for, you know, first responders, military and stuff like that. That's why me and Matt teamed up from the very beginning when we got our instructor rating, because Matt's a veteran as well. And I like to brag on Matt a little bit. I call him a doctor. So I'm like, hey, when you come, we got a doctor here that's, you know, something happened, so we're good. So, but yeah, so that's what my school was based off of. That's where I came up with the name Patriot Paramotor and stuff like that. It was just mainly because my brother's a wounded veteran, and that's something I wanted to get into, is helping veterans and like PTSD and stuff like that. Because I think, you know, what we do is very therapeutic, and it could help a lot of people in a lot of ways. And I mean, I've never been so clear-headed in my life, except, you know, when I'm up, you know, a couple thousand feet enjoying a sunset or a sunrise. I mean, that is the most clear-headed I've ever been. And, you know, you can process anything when you're up in the air. Obviously, I wouldn't go up if I'm in a bad mood or in a, you know, one, you know, certain kind of mood, obviously. But like, yeah, that's basically what my school's about. You know, obviously I train everybody. I've trained a US senator before, or a state senator before. You know, it's been multiverse for me. I've trained someone that's dyslexic that I didn't know, like we were talking about earlier. Found out after a couple of flights that he was dyslexic. So yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, It worked out.
That's gonna be
Thank
a,
God.
an interesting training course there, because you got good and bad. It's, you know, it's good because there won't be really any bugs or anything, but it's gonna be a little cool down there in December.
Oh yeah. Well, we're gonna, it's south of Atlanta, so it'll still be pretty decent. Matt's bringing his towing equipment down, I believe. I got my
Oh.
hang tester down there with a simulator. So, he's bringing his trikes down. So it's gonna be a great class for sure if we can get it, definitely, if we can get it filled. Obviously, otherwise it's gonna be us finishing up some students, that's holdovers, or students that come in for refresher courses. I've had some students, they'll fly for like a month and a half, and then they get caught up with life, and then they reach out like 3-4 months later wanting to come back and kind of retrain and refresher course. It's just like riding a bike. If you don't do it a lot and keep riding it, well, I wouldn't say it's like riding a bike. It's like playing golf. If you don't do it a lot,
Right.
you're gonna lose that that swing in motion. So like if you're flying once a month, are you gonna improve as a pilot? I don't think so. You got to get out there and fly, and and push the limits, get some hours under your belt. But yeah, that's what my school's about mainly, and it's here in Georgia. So
Okay, Matt.
Yes. Well, my school is Sky Shark PPG. It's here in Central Kentucky. First off, the name Sky Shark PPG is a little bit of a play on words. The term Sky Shark is a aviation term in the paratrooper world. So that was something in jump school that they told us was an aggressive paratrooper. They called them Sky Sharks. And so I thought it was kind of a neat name to put to the name of my school. But having been 82nd Airborne, it kind of pays homage to my beginning. But my school, or as Jerry said, I am a retired service member. I just retired April 1st with 26 years of service.
Thank you for your service, Matt.
Oh, my pleasure.
Awesome.
My pleasure. It was a wild ride. I got to travel all around the world and all over the country, and primarily I was in healthcare at the end, but now I'm doing my passion. This hobby can be all consuming to a lot of us because there's a lot of cliche terms, but once you taste flight, especially when you get over the fear, it takes 75, 80, maybe 100 flights to really get comfortable and really enjoy every moment of what your experience is. And I try to tell that to my students as well, that, after 25 flights, you're still kind of on the bubble. Whether or not do you like this? I mean, you like it and it's exciting, but you're not sure about it. You're still nervous. You're still uncertain with the gear. You're still scared. This hobby takes some dedication. It takes a year for you to really start to enjoy it. As far as training, I've trained students from all different walks of life, everything from base jumper wingsuit flyers to just recently a 777 pilot. And everything in between. It's a heck of a hobby. I only teach one student typically at a time, sometimes two. I like the one-on-one aspect from it. It accelerates the training, and also I think it takes a competition pressure away from the student. There's no competition for them to worry about, and it allows us to safely and aggressively get people trained up and through the program. Jerry and I, though, yeah, we met at a fly-in years and years ago at Moonshiner Fly-In, actually several years back. And that kind of spawned everything. And we went to instructor school together and everything, and got trained by the great Chad Bastian at the instructor program. And I think it was his last time hosting it at the Endless Foot Drive, the instructor clinic. But I only teach foot launch with my program, although I am I'm a trike pilot and certified through trikes and everything. But foot launch is my passion. That's the one I focus on. I mainly fly the tandem trike really for tandem discovery flights for students, especially if they're over 200 pounds. I don't like to foot launch anybody that chubby. It's hard to get off the ground foot launch with a 200 pounder on the front. That's for sure. but I love it. We're going to be down there in Georgia, you know, and having a great time, and with the RV hookups and the equipment that I'm bringing down, it's going to be a heck of a time, you know. We're bringing down, I'm going to bring down my e-winch, which is an interesting thing. It's fairly new. It's an electric winch that hooks up to a stationary vehicle. So it uses the vehicle as a tether point, and it has a remote control to it that can actually go over 5,000 feet. So you technically could pull yourself up in a winched flight, a tow flight, and release just paragliding up to almost a mile, which is pretty impressive. But it's really nice. It gives the students something to practice before they strap the motor on, before they have to deal with the throttle and the weight and all that, where they just get to land a couple times with only their own body weight, you know, and an oversized glider. And it really lowers their nerves as far as that fear of the ground coming at them for the flare. I find it to be very, very valuable with my students thus far. So yeah, we're gonna have a great time together, though. It's a great place to fly too. If it hasn't been to Hodges Field, beautiful, beautiful place to fly. So I don't know what else to say.
That's so cool.
Sounds
What you're
excellent.
doing, you guys, all of you, you know, experiencing the flying, and that's why I always bring this up. But you know, when I took my first tandem last year with Eric Lear, and it was like, oh my gosh, it was an experience I'll never forget. And I had so much fun last year that I went back again this year and went back up in the air again. And it was just, oh my gosh. Yeah, it changed lives. It does. It changed mine. It really did. It really did. It like totally, that was totally out of my comfort zone. And just like a lot of people, I was going through a lot of life changes and everything was all crazy. And I got up in the air and I was just like so freaking proud of myself. And it was such a cool day. I came down, I was crying, I was laughing, everybody was crying, everybody was laughing with me. And it was just like, you know, we were like, and this is like family. This is my family. And this is why I do what I do. You know, I get you guys on the show and talk about your experiences and your adventures and, you know, things like that. And I always, every Monday, right, Sean, I learned something. I always learn something.
I think we all learn something every time that we talk about paramotors, going out to a fly-in and talking to other people, other pilots. You always learn something. You never go to one of these things. You never go on a flight and not learn something. I mean, right, Jerry? Right, man? I mean, you go on a flight, you learn something. Wow, I didn't realize I
Every
could do
time.
that.
Every
Right.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
when you know about the rest of it, but you can't worry about anything. You're not thinking about the bills or your life or this or that or the other. You're in the moment. It's hard actually to not be in the moment. You are so in the moment, especially with music going in your earbud. That magical moment with you and the wind and the air and these paramotors, which are just amazing.
How many times have I ever said that, Butch Fly?
Yeah.
All the time, right?
Several times. You say it a lot.
I got something too. It's like, how long did it take for you guys to get your first motor out? And everybody knows this, right? Just like a tire on your car, it's not if you're going to have a flat, it's when. So the
When.
question is, how long did it take for you to get your very first motor out? And I'm going to ask Butch Fly really quick because it kind of just happened. Butch, how long did it take for you to get your first motor out, sir?
I've lost count of the flights, but it just happened yesterday.
What happened, man?
Well, it kind of just the carburetor quit on me. It was idling and all of a sudden, and I tried to restart it in there and that didn't work. So I just came down in the cow field.
So let me ask you something. When you try to start it, were you still holding your brake toggles?
Yeah, and that was a ride. When I went, whoa, whoa. Yeah,
Full turn,
Yeah.
full turn.
didn't think about it. Just oh, I got to start the engine. So I just reached back there and boom, whoa, what a ride. So I had to settle that down and then, all right, don't freak out, just land.
Oh, you're
Well, let me ask
probably-
you this. Let me ask you this. How far away from the LZ did you land away from?
Oh, probably about 30 yards.
30
Oh.
yards from the LZ. Now, what happened? Could you get back to the LZ from where you landed?
Nope. There was a
Tell
big
tell
old-
everybody what happened.
yeah, 6-foot barbed wire fence, and I had to land about 5 feet before it because I knew I couldn't make it over it. So, let me go ahead and get down and start pulling some brake now and land before the fence. And there was a bunch of cows there too. It was
So-
quite the
so-
experience.
So you guys, when you're flying out there with your flip-flops or barefoot or whatever, and you fly around, if it's just a mile from your LZ, you got to think, what am I going to have to walk to get to a road or get back to the LZ? Because Butch was not very far and he was behind a 6-foot barbed wire fence that he could not get through without the help of a couple of really awesome people. Thank you, Chris, by the way, for listening.
Yeah.
That happened to me, and I wasn't consciously thinking. I took off at the beach, so I was like, oh yeah, this is beautiful out here. The sand was nice and cool, but I flew for 2 hours, and in that 2 hours that sand got really hot. So when I landed, I burned my damn feet off. I wasn't thinking about, I was barefoot. I mean, that's what I meant to say. Yeah. So I was just like, oh, I'm on the beach. I'll just take off barefoot, which was fine when I took off. Not so good when I landed. I ran out to the water with the paramotor on my back. Ah.
That is so funny. Anybody else have any, I had a motor out deal, and how long did it take for you to go from you were a student to a motor out?
I had my first motor out. I probably had 250 flights or so. So when I had already done some practicing with motor out, because you have to for PPG 3, which a lot of people may not know is that, you have motor off landings from 1,000 feet and 500 feet. And you have to land within a certain radius for the PPG 3 test. And so fortunately, I had already completed that training too. So I'd been working on my spot landings a little bit. So it was a non-event, but I've had several since then. And it's from the number one cause of motor outs, running out of fuel.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that. The one I actually had a motor out, like I've had 3. The first one was a non-event. I was right over the LZ. We were at Endless Foot Drag that year, Matt. And I was right over the LZ and the motor died at like 15 feet. And I just swooped in and landed. But the one that was kind of scary was at the beach with Crazy Carl. And we flew probably about 15 miles down the beach and back. And played the whole way there and back. And I came in, I was getting ready to land. I did a big steep turn to turn back to go into the wind. And I was parallel with the road, but right below me and to my right was a big sand dune that goes all the way down the beach line. And then on the other side of the sand dune was the ocean and the beachfront. Well, the motor died and I ran out of fuel. So I started to turn into the wind, like that was coming kind of at an angle off the ocean, and down the beach line. And then I gave it some brake pressure, hoping I was going to clear that sand dune. It didn't feel like I was going to clear it. So all I could do, luckily there was no cars parked along the side of the road. And I came in, just literally landed right behind Carl's RV and almost face planted into his RV. But I was fortunate that the sand stopped me from sliding. If that would have been on grass, like at Hodges, I would have face planted into that RV. So, but luckily I was able to stick my landing and stop running pretty quickly and kill my glider. But yeah, it was, that was my scariest moment with the motor out. But both of the other ones were, non-events. I was, flying from, LZ to LZ, I guess you could say, or out to out. So it was non-events. So But
Well, I
yeah,
haven't-
that one puckered the butt a little bit because almost face planted RV, but yeah.
I haven't had a motor out yet, but as a surprise, probably to Matt and Jerry, I only have 10 hours on my motor. It's a factory R. I got 10 hours on my motor and 10 flights ever.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I've had 4 motor outs and 3 of them were fuel related. Wingovers actually starved my motor and choked it out once doing wingovers, but I've had 1 on climb out. And that's
Ooh.
probably the scary
Oh,
one.
wow.
30
That's not
feet out and the spark plug wire broke. So, you know, it went from full climb out, full power to nothing. And, you know, you're already in the brakes on a semi-reflex glider to get off the ground. So you just have to be cognizant. You cannot give the brake back. You're only 20 feet up.
How high did you get when the motor went out? Was you above 50 feet or?
No. I was probably 20, 25 feet in the air, maybe 30.
Oh, wow.
So basically, what I had to do is just keep the brakes where they're at and start to come in and slam your flare. You got to do a hard flare because you don't have anything left in the glider.
Right. Wow.
And so
That's scary, that
yep.
low.
Wow.
it was, but the landing was softer than I thought it would be. I didn't break any equipment or anything, but I had to think real quick. Do not give the brakes back, you know, because that's
You
crazy.
dove and got that speed back.
Right. I didn't have the time to. I would have swooped into the ground. So I was like, don't give the brakes back. That was the first thing that went through my mind. And that wound up being the right decision. If you're 50 feet up, yeah, give the brakes back. You can get a swoop and gain all that energy back and come in and flare a landing. But yeah, climb out, no, not so
Made
much.
that mistake at the beach when I came into land. I flared and I kind of ballooned a little bit. So I gave just a little bit of brake back. That was a bad mistake.
Yeah.
The wind went over and it basically pushed me down in the sand. And then I
Oh,
burned my feet and had to run to the ocean.
Yeah,
But
once you
did-
put
Did
brake
you
and you
get
balloon,
video of
you
that,
just
Scuba?
stop pulling.
I didn't get video of the landing. I was already up for 2 hours. So the GoPro I didn't have a extra plug. So it died. I wish I had video of it. It was pretty fun to watch me churn sand. Because my kill switch wouldn't work either. I didn't think that the beach air would gum up my throttle on my kill switch. It's just so salty. My kill switch wouldn't work. I'm pushing the kill switch and it just
Yeah,
and
you
it
gotta
wouldn't.
keep that throttle out of the sand at all times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, if your kill switch comes off of your coil, if that wire breaks, that little thin black wire, or pops off the coil, the motor still runs. It just won't kill. The kill switch will not work. So you have to pull your
the ground connection.
to the top of the coil.
grounds.
Yeah, that little thing that, they come pretty standard where they clip onto that coil at the top. I've
Super
seen
thick wire.
I've seen someone reach around that happened to them on video, and then they were able, they grabbed the primer bulb and squeezed it, and it killed the engine eventually. But that's if you can reach it, but also if you want to actually try to reach back there to kill your engine. I mean, me, I'm just gonna let it sit long as it goes to idle. I'm good. I'm gonna land with the motor on. But
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, my very last flight, this would have been yesterday or the day before yesterday, right? My kill switch broke. So it's either just and it was dark and I'm tired. So I mean, it's either that it's a broken. I've had the ground switch, the ground connection come loose twice, and I've also had the switch itself. It broke in the wire broke inside the sheathing. So
I think a lot of these
kill switches is you don't know they're not working until you go to use it.
I think for most of us, these are non-events because we have clutches. If we didn't have a clutch, oh yeah, big difference. You got that big flywheel spinning behind you after you land that you got to try to take off while it's running, with lines. Yeah, that would be tough.
interesting. May I tell you what, it is so fun listening to pilots talking about pilot stuff and paramotors and wings and trims, SIV clinics. I love Mondays. I love podcasts. I love talking about this stuff. What's the next fly-in this year? Is there any more fly-ins this year that's going to be going on?
Southern
Yes.
Utah flying next, not this week, but next.
You know,
week.
it's funny, you think after Monday night, we get all the paramotor talk out of our system, but it's everyday thing. You
Right.
just talk about paramotors with enough to make your woman really ill. Does everything have to be about flying? Well, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Next question.
You know, as far as paramotor fly-ins, there was last year, I don't know about this year, but in Illinois, they had a flight fright.
Oh.
That's Mike Mixer.
Yes. Yeah. And that had like a Halloween costume party or something and everything else involved. But
Oh, Will and I got the mask already. We're ready.
Yeah, man. There is a fly-in October 7th. It's called Cheat River Fall Fly-In, and it's in West Virginia. So
that'd be
West Virginia, that's not too far from me. I'm in
That's,
Virginia.
that's kind of far for me.
yeah.
Oh man,
won't be
there's
able to-
our mask right there that we can wear with our helmet.
That's pretty cool.
Dang, man, it says 875 people responded. You know, where they say, "Are you going? Are you not going?" or whatever.
Wow. Wow.
No, but it shows 793 interested and 82 going.
Whoa.
Wow.
Has anyone ever heard of that fly-in?
I
Uh-uh.
have
You
West
have
Virginia. What was it called again? The
Cheat. What was it? Cheat River Fly-In.
Is it
And,
the first annual?
apparent one past event, it says. So
Huh.
I guess this would be the second.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
West
Yeah,
Virginia.
There, Garrett County Airport.
That's got to be
And then,
far away from DC. I guarantee that.
Yeah, you think? Yeah.
It's crazy.
Do we
Of
have?
course, yeah, it's
any-
deliverance country, you know, so. Just
Ding,
just
ding,
right.
ding, ding,
throwing it
ding,
out
ding,
there.
ding. Hey, did we miss any questions in the super chat, guys? Haven't been able to look.
Yeah, there was, Tony wonders if props ever wear out.
yes.
Especially if you're at the
E-props.
beach.
Yeah, E-props do. E-props are the most fragile, definitely, but they're also the lightest. So, you know, you sacrifice durability for light.
But do they actually wear out or do they break? Because I mean, if
No,
they
no,
don't,
you know, they
What's that?
delaminate. They delaminate. You'll have to super glue them back together.
oh, I
I've
have
seen
seen
that.
some of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that just the E-prop thing where they delaminate?
Yeah, I believe so.
I don't think
never
I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen a Helix delaminate.
Helix feels a little rough on the leading edge.
Yeah.
It's when I went down in the sand and my prop was still spinning, it pulled a bunch of sand and it kind of roughened up the edge. I think I can get away with just some prop tape over it though. It literally just feels, it's not like silky smooth. It just feels a little rough, like I sanded it. So
You could
Hmm.
probably stand it. Like
yeah,
Yeah.
2000 grit or
there you go. But yeah, I could probably get away with doing that, just sanding it.
Have you guys heard about Rick Simmons prop repair?
Oh man.
No, I haven't.
If you haven't
Yeah.
heard about Rick Simmons prop repair, if you buy a brand new prop, before you even put it on your motor, send it to him. He will not only balance it, but he will put it in vinyl wrapping of the color of your choice. And it is smoother than it coming from factory. All my props I will send to him and he fixes them up. Butch, you sent one to him, didn't
Yeah.
you?
Man, it rode so much smoother when I got it back from him. He balanced it and it made a world of difference. And it looked good too.
Yeah, Rick Simmons prop repair. Look, you can see his. I don't have it right now, but it's on Facebook.
But
We'll
and
post
he
the
has
link.
Multiple. You found it?
He
I put the
posted
link in the
to your-
description.
Okay. Yeah, so it is really amazing. I definitely recommend Rick because just because of when you get it back, it is so much smoother than when you buy it brand new. Okay, so you buy a brand new one, right? You enjoy it, it has fun, you have fun with it, you break it, you send it to him, you bring it back, or you get it back, and it's like, what is this? Brand new? It's actually better than when you get it brand
Better
new.
than new. Yeah. it's
Wow.
better than-
Cool.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that because I sent one down to him, and because it's Canada, it cost me way more than buying directly from eProp. So I'm glad to hear that because
So
it's not
you-
my prop, and I could have bought it from eProp for cheaper.
So you got one from Rick?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I said I sent one down to him, and
Yeah.
he redid it.
Oh,
And-
okay. I'm grandpa. I have a really bad time hearing somebody from Canada.
Can
Eh?
anybody? Is everybody having a hard time hearing me?
You're a little bit lower than most. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
thought it was
yeah.
me. I thought,
Jim, you've
man,
been
I
on
can't
mute
hear
this whole time,
tonight.
man.
It's the poutine.
Thanks.
It's the poutine weighing you down. It's the poutine.
Is that what it is? Oh my.
Oh
I'll
my
see if I
gosh.
can
Oh,
change
did you
that.
win stickers on
buy
Grandpa's
your
YouTube
mug,
video
do you?
if you got the question right? I don't know, Tony, did you get it right?
What's that?
That video you put on your channel about, can you guess what's in this, blah, blah, blah.
I haven't even looked at it. Butch and I, we get up at 4 o'clock every morning. We go to school, work on it, and we don't get back until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So we're working crazy hours because we have how many disabled vets in the queue? 8 of them now.
8 right now.
We got
Yeah.
8 disabled vets in the queue that need to come through this school, and we are working our butt off to make sure that they can come through over at Run to the Sky. So,
Tony, it's a vinyl wrap for their bathroom. That's what it is.
what?
So is that better?
Oh,
Hey,
wow, I
whoa.
can hear you
Yeah,
now.
now you're talking.
Yeah. This stupid snowball, all of a sudden, it takes it down to 80% all the time, and I don't even know it's doing it.
Much
So
better.
when are you supposed to get your prop back from Rick?
It was the E-prop that I was flying. I broke one blade. I borrowed it from a friend, so it's actually his prop. And out of responsibility, and I had it fixed. So I sent it down to Rick. Well, it cost $60 to get it to Rick. Then it cost 60 US to get it back. Then it cost $60 for another, I don't know what, some COD charge. So it would have been far cheaper for me, being in Canada, to just buy it directly from eProp, one blade.
Well, your friend is going to really love that prop that you got him.
I sure hope so. So that's why I'm glad to hear what you say.
Oh yeah, he will. He's gonna. Man, it don't vibrate now. All
We
that.
should
I do
ask
the
him.
same thing, Jim. If I was in your shoes and I had a buddy's prop and I broke it or something, yeah, I'd replace it. I mean, it's the thing you got to do. I mean, you
Yeah.
use
Right.
their stuff, you break
Dang,
it.
it's the only prop I've ever broke. That's what really
that
blows
sucks.
my mind.
Okay, now you're
395 flights, no broken props until I use that thing.
okay. Now it's really, really loud, and it's
Flipping out.
you're way louder than everybody now.
Hey, but we can hear them.
I'll put the mic a little further away. How's that?
We'll
Poor
get it
Jim.
adjusted.
Oh my gosh. That's fun. This was really fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I see one more question that Eric McFarland said. Is there a SIV that includes a motor? I'm curious how the super confusing stalls I did with no motor would be with an additional 50-pound motor. Not that I know of, and it sounds incredibly dangerous to do an SIV with a motor. How about you guys? Anybody else hear about that?
I've
don't
heard
know
of
of one.
doing in Florida. They did it at a fly-in years prior, where they flew over to the lake on radio. A buddy of mine named Brandon Freebie did it, but I don't know of any since then, and I wouldn't do it with a motor because that's just lines that can get hooked up. You're purposely stalling the glider, and you can get lines hooked up. You're reserved. There's many factors there. So that's just putting yourself at more risk. I wouldn't do it. I don't even think Andrew would teach that. So
That would be, no,
Drowning.
that would be
The drowning.
crazy.
What's that, Matt?
The drowning risk of having the motor on you too, because
Yeah.
of the buoyancy factor,
Yeah.
especially when you're putting these gliders into situations that they may not recover,
Right,
Exactly.
yeah, then, yeah.
Like
that would
Terry
be-
said, though, there was a place that used to do it. I don't know if they still do it.
Yeah, I
just-
haven't heard of it since that time that my buddy Brandon Freebie did it. He was a instructor under Ryan Shaw years prior. But that was somewhere in Florida at a fly-in. But since then, I haven't heard of it. It's just too many factors there that would put you at risk to do that.
Yeah, and if you're going to go to a SIV clinic, I really think that the safety factor is what we're looking at, is how safe can we learn our glider? And it's not how can we do acro at a SIV clinic, it's what happens, what do these lines do? I mean, you see A's, B's, C's, and D's. What do they really do? And this, the SIV clinic basically teaches you what they do, what happens when you pull one, what happens when you pull both, and what happens if you do get into a situation. You can reset your wing by pulling the frontal and resetting your wing. So if you haven't done that before, and if you want to know what it feels like to pull a reserve and float down on a reserve, not under stress of having to throw that laundry for emergency, that to me was the most fun. I enjoyed coming down on a reserve at an SIV clinic safely, because you're coming down what, 5.5 meters a second, right? That's what, 13 feet a second. That's like jumping off your house. So
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
if you remove all the fear, I mean, where's the fun in that?
well, that's the thing. It's fun. There's no fear. SIV clinics, it's supposed to be fun. Well, anyway, it's rolling up on 9 o'clock. I cannot believe that 2 hours went by like that. Here we are, 2
Yeah,
hours.
it's time for me to eat and get some sleep.
Yes. I heard you.
Yes,
Absolutely.
who was on the chat tonight? I can anybody want to just read real quick, and I can just say hi and bye and thank you, to
Who has access to that?
the Paramount thing.
Do you have access to that, Scuba?
It's only gonna tell me who's chatted recently.
Okay, so Never Trust a Skinny Chef Shane, Tony Marzano, Scuba, Bill H,
Yay,
Will Fly. Just going through here real quick. Kramer, Eric McFarland, John Wayne. What's going on, John? Paramotor IRL.
hey. Got all our Monday night groupies in there.
Jeff Walter. Let's see, who else? Did I say Kramer?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I take it back.
The other
All right.
Nick,
PPG, the other Nick.
Oh, I didn't see him. What's up,
Yeah,
Nick?
the other Nick's in there.
Hey, PPG, the other Nick. Okay.
Time for me to go Jade, I see. It sounds like Jerry Fly is like microwaving something and eating, so he must be really hungry.
Air fryer.
Jim Care PPG Smart. Walter Priori, tomorrow's coming. What's going on? man?
Sugar in the house.
Cliffy V, I see.
And I think I've got everybody. If not, I'm sorry.
Might need to say hello to us so we can say your name. Apparently, I mean, I cannot believe that 2 hours went by so quick like that. I mean,
After the
Pretty
world, he
quick.
says he just flew tonight. What's up, man?
Good
awesome.
time.
We were talking about good stuff, man. Time flies by on it.
Yeah, it does. There it is.
Did you see what Shane said in there? Never trust skinny chef Shane. That said, I heard Sean scream a little more than me at the last SIV. Just saying. Yes, Shane and I went to an SIV clinic. Let me go ahead and explain what that means. every time I go to an SIV clinic, I take, my frequent flyer, and I try to go once a year to see what my new wing does, under stress, right? Well, I think do you remember what that was? Skinny Chef? Was it the Gin Vantage, or was it, God, I can't remember what it was. Anyways, whatever wing I had, right? And I love flying 28-meter wings. Just because I like to be nice and boaty. I like to take off in 10 steps in nil wind. Yes, with an Atom 80, I can take off in about 10 to 12 steps in nil wind. So yeah, it's the boaty wings that I like. Who cares about running 50 miles so I can get up on a 18-meter? That sounds horrible. But anyway, I forgot what I took for that particular one. And one of the most benign ones you can do is you can grab your A's, and you can actually do it, horseshoe, and bring the wing in and do a horseshoe. It's a nice descent, right? And I've done that before on my other gliders. Well, this glider, whatever it was, I can't remember offhand, it collapsed. Not only did it collapse, but I had a riser twist. The only time in my entire career of flying and doing SIV clinics, acro, etc., that I actually lost the stomach, like you're doing a roller coaster, right? Where you go down too quickly, right? I actually felt the butterflies and all that on that one picture. Yes, I think I screamed like a little girl. It was the most scariest thing I've ever did, but it came back around. It unwrapped and opened up, and I will not do the horseshoes no more. I don't care.
You had to buy new
glider I'm
trolls
in.
after that. didn't you? Yeah.
All right, my next SIV clinic I will do, but
Cliffy V.
yeah,
Sean,
what's
I
that?
didn't mention him. What's going on, Cliffy V?
Cliffy V. Yep. That's another one.
I think I already said Cliffy V.
Did
Did
you?
I not? If I didn't, I thought I did.
Double
All right.
dip.
All right.
Well, we
Double
did it
dip.
again and
You
again. so.
didn't. Thank you, chatters. I love y'all.
Yeah, and thank you, Matt and Jerry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Oh,
Jerry's still
pleasure.
there, I think he's eating in the background someplace. Jerry, thank you, sir. He's like, I went
Big shout
flying.
out to Northern Lights Paramotors LLC. You see my picture. We got Eric there in the back, who's an awesome pilot.
Wait,
Shout out
is that- there we go.
to my JD.
What's this? What does this mean?
We're
Look
doing
at her,
the
look at her
Paramount
picture in the
thing.
back. Look at her picture in the back.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And it put stop signs on all our pictures and put the hand up.
oh, it did, didn't
You
it?
can actually
Yeah, it
raise your
did.
hand.
That one works.
Yeah, that one does work, right?
Well, Matt and Jerry, man, I know you guys got to roll. But I
Yeah.
really appreciate you
Yeah.
hanging out with us.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Definitely had a good time. I missed it.
Yeah. Have a
So,
blast. You guys come
Jerry,
back more
Matt.
often, man. We always have some good discussions and everything.
Yeah.
Bro,
People
for
in
sure.
chat, if y'all need to take training, remember they got a course coming up in December, down in Georgia.
For me.
Yeah,
love to have
absolutely.
you.
Get a hold of them.
Absolutely. Jerry, go
Yeah.
ahead and tell us about your school real quick and how to get up with you, and Matt, you next, all right?
Okay.
Yeah, just www.patriotparamotor.com is the website. All of my contact info's on there, or you can hit me up on Instagram, patriot.paramotor, or Facebook, Jerry Fly, FLY. And yeah, we got that class coming up December 2nd through the 10th, and it's going to be a good time, and it's at the world famous Hodges Field. You can't beat the location.
Great place to play.
Jerry Fly, Will Fly, Butch Fly. You guys are all
I'm
We're-
not
we're
doing scuba
cousins.
fly.
We're
Sorry. Not doing it.
Just
Me
flies
and Will go like
everywhere.
Fly,
that.
Sean Fly. All right, Matt.
That's funny.
Your turn, buddy.
Yeah. Well, if anybody wants to learn about paramotoring and lives in the Kentucky area, look me up. They can call me. My phone number's on the website, but the website is skysharkppg.com, and my email is skysharkppg@gmail.com. And so they can call me, text me, or come out and just watch us fly. But I'll let them know where we'll be flying, and I invite anybody to come out and see us or take training. And then also for the Hodges Field this December, it's going to be a really, really nice place to train. I know we talk about it a lot, how nice that training field is, or how nice that LZ is, but students don't really have reference to place to it, but it truly is the absolute best field that we probably have in the country. You know, it's like a putting green for us to learn how to fly paramotors or to just fly from the area. And it's truly a blessing to have such a field. And it's an amazing place with RV hookups and shower house and all kinds of things. So, you know, it's really set up for people to come down there and hang out for, you know, several days and have a good time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. Jerry, Matt, you guys are amazing. Had a blast as always. And I can't wait to get out to Bad Apples or Hodges Field and go fly with you guys again. I miss it, man. I'm telling you, next year I'm going to go everywhere.
All right, we're gonna hold you to it.
Oh, I hope so. I
Yep.
will be there or I'll be square.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
guys.
much, Matt and Jerry. So appreciate you coming on tonight.
Definitely. Thank you
And,
for having us.
Really enjoyed it. Don't mind me with my glasses. I'm still like, it's healing up pretty good. So, yes.
All right, Jerry. All right,
All
Matt,
right.
you guys
Well-
can leave if you want to. We're just going to say goodbyes over here, but if you want to stay,
All
you
right.
can. If not, we'll catch you next time.
All right, y'all have a good night. Thank y'all for having us.
All right.
Take care.
There you
Night.
go.
Be blessed.
Guys,
Jerry and Matt, you guys are awesome. Well, since we didn't get our goodbye or our hellos when we first started, it's time to say hello and who we are. Let's go ahead and go to Will Fly from willflyppg.com. Tell us a little bit about your awesome videos and how to get to them.
Yeah, right, man. Well, I like to fly and I like to make videos about flying. And I got a series called Just the Tip, and 12.0 is, I'm not going to promise, but maybe tomorrow. So you can check it out online, willflyppg.com, or you can go to youtube.com/willfly. Take you right there.
Excellent. And you must like to fly because your last name is Fly. That's awesome.
It's just a coincidence, man.
That's incredible. And we also got Jim from Canada A, the only guy I know that has maple syrup smelling money. All right. Tell us a little bit about your awesome carepp.com.
Yeah, come on. You can check out careppg.com or my flying shenanigans, where I put on put up various videos, sometimes about printing, some mostly about flying. And right now, if you subscribe to the channel, I've got a t-shirt that I'm giving away to one of the subscribers. Once I hit 1,500 subscribers, it's a XXL Dudek t-shirt.
Size. Everybody go
XXL.
subscribe so I can win.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jim. Maybe if I can get up to 1,500 subscribers, I'll give away a t-shirt also.
Sounds good.
But I don't think I'll ever get up to 1,500. I don't know how you guys do that stuff. That's crazy. So make sure you guys go over, check out carepp.com and careppg.com, hit that bell notification, subscribe, like, and all that fun stuff. And also over to willflyppg.com. You got to go over there and do that. Scuba Steve, man, you got yourself a podcast. You got yourself vaping. You fly. You're a paramotor dude, and you got your paramotordude.com. Wait a minute. How'd you get paramotordude.com? That sounds pretty cool, man.
Oh, that was from you, Sean. You know, I won that. So I took advantage of it. I still haven't decided if I'm going to stay with that one or not, but I might. I just got to get like you. I can't, you know, somehow you got the knack on how to take one video and post it 13 different times. So I got to figure out how to do that.
He's good at that stuff.
If
ain't
I'm lying, I'm dying. He's
No,
got a
he-
way to change the title and put it on a different platform or something. And I'm like, I didn't already see this,
he? Yep.
but it's awesome. Hey, you know, 26,000 subscribers. He's doing something right. So there you go. But yeah, go to paramotordude.com. I do a live show every Friday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 8 to 10. Usually talk about vaping, but also paramotors. And I may end up doing a show actually tomorrow night because I got some new stuff in that I need to talk about. So I may do a Tuesday show out of the blue. So there you go.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Put
Sounds
that
good.
on the agenda.
Yeah,
Yep.
most
Tomorrow
definitely.
at 8 o'clock. If I do it, I'll post it in my group, you know, if I'm gonna do it.
So you have a group too? Tell us about this group. I wish
Yeah,
I could
group
join
on,
this
on
group.
Facebook, Scuba's Hangout. Can't get any simpler than that. Just look up Scuba's Hangout on Facebook. You can go join the group there. We post all our mods, and I post some paramotor videos on there, but it's mainly about vaping. If you're interested in trying to quit smoking, we suggest join, you know, and nobody looks down on you if you're trying to quit smoking, or if you start vaping and you still smoke, hey, you know, more power to you. At least you're smoking less, you know. That's the way I see it. So
The only time that we're going to look down at you is when we're 1,000 feet up in our paramotors, and we're
there you
like,
go.
pretty
There
cool.
you
We
go.
can see you guys vape.
That's it.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a good windicator, you know.
It is. We also got our very own Linda Anderson, ParagonUSA.com.
This was great. Mondays are always fun. Always fun. Next Monday, we have Jeff Goyne. He's going to join us. So I'm going to send him a little reminder. He was really excited about coming back on the show. So I think it's going to be super fun. You know, see what he's been up to and talk about his book and all that stuff. And then if you want to be a guest on my show, just go to ParamonUSA.com and it'll take you right to my Facebook and just say, hey, I want to be on your show. And I'll get you hooked up, and yeah, you'll be a superstar for the night. And then on Thursdays, we have paraglidingtalk.com with my awesome son, Robert Michaels. And if you want to check him out on Thursdays, we always have a really fun show, fun guests, always learn something. And yeah, make sure you guys, you know, just watch for the link in Facebook, you know, because I'm the PR here, the PR there, you know, Paramom's work is never done. I love it. And like I said, another shout out to Northern Lights Paramotor LLC. Got Eric Lear behind me here, let's see. And they're just awesome people. And like I said, they made my tandem experience just unforgettable, and they were so patient, and I just got to give a big shout out. And I just love it because paramotor people, you're my people, and you become my family. And I'm just very blessed to have all of them. So that's it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you very much, Miss Linda Anderson. We definitely
Emotional, like
appreciate you.
No.
And you're right. Once you're a paramotor pilot, you have a huge family you can always call on. We got Butch Fly from ppgbutch.com. Tell us a little bit about your flying experience and how we can go check out your stuff over on YouTube.
Well, you just said it at ppgbutch.com, or you can look on YouTube for Fly Butch Fly. I got some videos on there. I accidentally made two channels, but this Eric McFarland is asking, is there a way to support fellow vets remotely? I think you can go over to runintothesky.org. And we could always use some help.
Okay, yes, runtothesky.org is a nonprofit to help disabled veterans learn to fly and also create adaptive flying machines in case you need something special. That's runtothesky.org, and that is actually part of this podcast. This podcast has now become part of Run to the Sky's nonprofit. So this is a nonprofit podcast. How cool is that? So thank you very much, Butch, and all the cool stuff that you do. He works very tirelessly and hard in the background. He works his finger to his bone. He used to be 300 pounds just 2 weeks ago, and look at him. He's just
He's a chicken rail.
I need a sandwich.
Somebody
have
feed
more,
that
sir.
dude, man.
Oh man, way too much fun. So thank you so much, everybody. Will, thank you so much for everything you do. Jim, thank you. Paramom, Miss Linda, Scuba Steve, Butch, you guys are amazing. And of course,
No, you're amazing.
oh,
Yes, you are
go
amazing,
on.
Sean.
No, really, go on.
You're amazing.
No, go on. And yeah, and Matt was really awesome. Jerry Fly, he's been on
Yeah.
our podcast before too. Everyone that jumps on here, you guys are amazing. So thank you so much. Subscribe if you haven't, and we will see you next Monday here at ClearProp TV or PPG Grandpa's Paramotor Podcast, which you can find everywhere across the universe.
Have a
Until
blessed
then,
week, y'all. Be safe.
be safe and hope to see you soon. Run into the sky. Peace out, y'all. Peace. Hey, look, I'm a dog dad tonight. Dog dad. Woohoo! All right, guys. See y'all later.
Good night.
All right.